Chapter 424, Promise. Chapter 424, Promise. The crystal lotus throne rose out of the swamp again. The king of demonic insects screeched loudly on the crystal lotus throne while a lot of demon insects rushed over the warriors in the swamp. Shi Yang was standing above the swamp, coldly watching the warriors who had shown off their strength earlier being wrapped by the demonic insects. As the number of the demonic insects was tens of thousands, and the swamp was their territory, these warriors had no strength to fight back this slaughter. Under the erosion by the insects, the warriors' defensive halos and secret treasures were all chewed off completely. The demonic insects then drilled into those warriors' bodies, ate their brain and killed them in the end. The eyes of Kai Xiao, Zhao Feng, and the others revealed a trace of fright. Looking at the insects that were eating those warriors, they were now aware of Shi Yang's wicked heart. The king of demonic insects on the crystal lotus throne slowly moved towards Shi Yang, looking at him with longing eyes. You have to kill all of them. Let's discuss something else. Shi Yang frowned and released his soul consciousness. Good. The king of demonic insects answered him cleanly. Amidst a loud scream, the demonic insects crazily submerged all of the warriors, starting the bloody slaughter. Except for Shi Yang's team, the other warriors were all attacked and killed. Whenever a warrior died, Shi Yang would absorb that warrior's scattering aura into his acupuncture points. There were more than 30 warriors, most of whom were at the sky realm. So, their auras went beyond his expectation, making his acupuncture points become terribly swollen. Shi Yang knew that absorbing the aura this time would deliver him to a crazy situation, but he was not nervous. Anyway, there were no enemies around this time. If he could have time later, he would definitely recover easily. The corpses shriveled and slowly sank into the swamp, coming back to float on the swamp again not long after that. The demonic insects continued to erode those dead bodies and soon turned them into skeletons. It was an extremely miserable fate indeed. Even Zhao Feng had to wear a frightened face as he also felt a bone-chilling dread. How did you do it after all? Zhao Feng asked with a hoarse voice while looking at Shi Yang. The king of demonic insects is a level 8 beast with intelligence. It's not just with some demagogic words that you can make the king of demonic insects compromise. I'm really curious. Why does this king of demonic insects listen to your orders? This was what everyone wanted to know. That's right. Not just demagogic words can make it obedient. Shi Yang beamed a faint smile but didn't explain anything. The king of demonic insects and I have an agreement, which is hard to be explained in details. So, you shouldn't ask much about it. Zhao Feng nodded. I can get the life original fluid from the king of demonic insects. I didn't lie about it. After hesitating a little bit, Shi Yang continued, however, I can't have it immediately. It requires a process. I'm not sure if I can take all of the life original fluid from the king of demonic insects or not. Everyone's eyes brightened. If one of you enter the third sky of spirit realm, you can find me later, and I will give you 1 drop of the life original fluid. Shi Yang beamed a smile. Zhao Feng, Kai Xiao, Li Yu, and Cai Yi all showed shocked faces while their eyes were sparkling with dazzling lights. Consider it as a promise, Shi Yang said. I promise you guys that any of you who enter the third sky of spirit realm can always find me to have 1 drop of the life original fluid. As long as I still have it, I will not be stingy. Zhao Feng and Li Yu's faces were both stunned, their bodies were trembling. Kai Xiao's eyes were wide open while nodding with a grateful face. Cai Yi gently smiled while her eyes lit up. Remove the barrier. Shi Yang looked at the king of demonic insects on the crystal lotus throne. Bang! An explosive sound echoed from the entrance. The blood-red smog hovering around the entrance dissipated quietly. You guys go up first. I need to stay here for a while. I need to spend more time with it. Pointing at the entrance, Shi Yang said firmly, that entrance should have no barrier, so you don't need to be worried. After talking, he walked towards the Laro brothers and Yi Zhongfeng, while his body emitted a fiery flame. Under the scorching heat, the ice rock around Laro Li, Luo Meng, and the others gradually melted. Their bodies were exposed little by little. Yi Zhongfeng's eyes were in a daze. When the heat power came close, The purgatory true flame on his body automatically released the defensive fire net. On the crystal lotus throne, there was no lozure any vibrations that could agitate people. When the earth flame came close, Yi Zhongfeng suddenly woke up, and his eyes brightened. What happened? Seeing dead warriors floating in the swamp, Yi Zhongfeng wore a frightened face and asked, "What happened in the swamp after all? Why did those people become like that? Only you guys are alive." Shi Yang nodded. "Did you get it?" "What?" "The life original fluid." Shi Yang looked at him with surprise. "You also know about the life original fluid?" "It's the reason why we came here." Yi Zhongfeng revealed sad eyes and wryly smiled. "I knew that there should be the life original fluid in the swamp. I came here with the hope that I could get one drop of the life original fluid. However, as my cultivation base is low, not reaching the sky realm yet, I lost my mind in this place. If Shi Yang didn't help you, I'm afraid that you would have been dead." Cai Yi frowned and told them about what had happened. She said that Shi Yang had used the ice-cold flame to freeze them, avoiding other warriors' attack. She also told them about the demonic insects that flew around in the sky and ate all of the warriors in the swamp to death. On listening to the story, the visage of the Laro brothers, Lin Ji, and the others changed to a frightened look. Laro Li thanked Shi Yang sincerely with gratitude. Shi Yang beamed a faint smile but didn't say anything. Lin Ji was a little embarrassed. She bowed her head, and also said thank you in a low voice. Shi Yang nodded with a smile and continued saying nothing. "Shi Yang, aren't you?" Yi Zhongfeng was hesitant, and didn't finish his sentence. He looked at Zhao Feng and then Kai Xiao and Cai Yi, contemplated for a while before saying, "Shi Yang, I want to tell you something in private." "Okay." Shi Yang proactively moved towards the crystal lotus throne, and his body suspended above it, indicating that Yi Zhongfeng should get there with him. Yi Zhongfeng stood on a dark red lava rock, surprisingly looking at Shi Yang and revealing a hesitant face. He seemed to know the power of that crystal lotus throne as well as the existence of the king of demonic insects, and thus, he didn't dare to go there. "It's all right." Shi Yang comforted him. Yi Zhongfeng's face looked less worried. He now slowly moved closer to him. Lin Ji, Luo Meng, and Lu Xiao also wanted to go there, but Yi Zhongfeng threw them a glance to stop them from coming. They eventually flew to another lava rock. "You guys go first." On the crystal lotus throne, Shi Yang nodded to Kai Xiao, Zhao Feng, and others. "You go up first. I will go there in 2 days, and we will talk later." Pausing for a while, he continued, "Bring Lin Ji and her team with you." Although Zhao Feng and Li Yu didn't understand what he is doing, they didn't ask much. They just nodded and led the team of Luo Meng, Lin Ji, Laro Li, and the others to leave. At the entrance, there wasn't any barrier indeed. They went through it, flying up to the island. In the swamp, there were only Yi Zhongfeng and Shi Yang left. "Did you really get the life original fluid?" Looking at the crystal lotus throne below, Yi Zhongfeng asked with a longing face. Shi Yang nodded. "Can you give me 1 drop? I just need 1 drop." Yi Zhongfeng suddenly got excited. Shi Yang frowned but didn't say anything. "I know the life original fluid is very precious. I know how much value this kind of liquid has to even spirit realm warriors." Yi Zhongfeng was stirred up. "I can exchange it for something. As long as you tell me what you need, I will find it for you. No matter what, I will absolutely find it. I just want 1 drop of the life original fluid." Shi Yang was stunned, looking at him with puzzled eyes. After a long while, he said, "You are still far away from the 3rd sky of spirit realm. Why do you want a drop of the life original fluid?" "I'm not asking it for myself." Yi Zhongfeng let out a sigh and reluctantly said, "My master has been stuck at the 3rd sky of spirit realm for a long time. He is an alchemist, and has spent all of his life in refinement. He's so close to the true God realm, but he isn't sure he can enter it. I'm afraid he will be depressed. That's why I'm asking a drop of the life original fluid for him." Yi Zhongfeng shook his head and continued, "I'm the abandoned disciple of the Spirit Treasure sect, and was almost taken to feed the beasts. If my master didn't accept me, I should have died already. I don't want to see him stay in this realm forever. I know that entering the true God realm is the wish of his life. I just want to help him and repay him for those years of teaching me. Shi Yang seemed to be touched. Please, Yi Zhongfeng begged him, I know that I cannot get any valuable things now, but I promise you that if you need anything later, I will do my best for you. You can say your request now, and I will certainly keep it in my heart and fulfill it later. Let me ask. Being silent for a long while, Shi Yang looked at the king of demonic insects and sent out a strand of his soul consciousness. Can you give me a drop of the life original fluid? Yes. Thank you. You have to give me 1 drop of your blood first. Deal. Chapter 425, Exchange. Chapter 425, Exchange. Yi Zhongfeng carefully held a crystal bottle. His face was excited, his body slightly trembled while he repeatedly thanked Shi Yang. Shi Yang stood on the crystal lotus throne, looking at the heart-shaped utensil slowly retreating into the lotus, as well as the king of demonic insects that was staring at him with a longing look. He stretched out his finger and used his mind to condense 1 drop of immortal blood that was running inside his finger, feeling the strange surging spirit of this drop of blood. Sizzle. His fingertip split with a small slit. A drop of ruby-dark red blood spun a little bit, and then slipped down. The king of demonic insects was standing on tiptoe, greedily opening its mouth and swallowing that drop of immortal blood into its abdomen. The body of the king of demonic insects turned blazing red. It slowly moved back to the crystal lotus throne and quietly disappeared into it. It seemed to be digesting the immortality effect of that blood drop. Yi Zhongfeng was still holding a small crystal bottle, looking at the drop of milky white sacred water. He was thrilled. You go up first. I need to stay here for a few days. Shi Yang glanced at him and said. Shi Yang, how should I thank you? Yi Zhongfeng asked with an excited face. As long as you make a request, I will do my best to fulfill it. You can rest assured that I will explain my master about this drop of life original fluid, and he will be of course grateful to you. You master is really in the dark magnetic noxious mist. Shi Yang was a little startled and slightly smiled. Is he in the dark magnetic noxious mist? Earlier he was. But he might not stay in the dark magnetic noxious mist longer. Yi Zhongfeng didn't hide anything. The reason my master stayed in the dark magnetic noxious mist was to find a drop of the life original fluid. Now, as we have this drop, possibly, my master will not continue to stay here. He may go back to the divine great land to collect the missing materials for the spiritualizing pellet. Spiritualizing pellet? Shi Yang was surprised. Why do you need to refine a pellet when you have the life original fluid already? No, Yi Zhongfeng explained with a faint smile. The main material of spiritualizing pellet is the life original fluid. It can be said that the spiritualizing pellet is the pellet that uses the life original fluid to be refined. With some auxiliary materials, it can enhance the effect of the life original fluid to the maximum. I would like to hear more details about it. Let's say it like this. Yi Zhongfeng revealed a light smile. A drop of the life original fluid can increase the probability of a third sky of sky realm to enter the spirit realm. However, relying on the life original fluid only cannot exert the life original fluid's effect to the maximum, probably only around 70% at maximum. But, if it can be refined into the spiritualizing pellet, the life original fluid's effect can be enhanced 100%. Shi Yang's face slightly changed. He contemplated for a while before saying, in the future, if possible, can you ask your master to use the life original fluid to refine the spiritualizing pellet for me? I don't think it's a problem. Yi Zhongfeng burst into laughter. No worries. My master doesn't like to owe people anything. If he can help you, I think he will be willing to do it. Are the auxiliary materials of the spiritualizing pellet precious? Shi Yang asked again. For ordinary people, they are indeed precious. However, for my master, they are not difficult to find. Ask him to find some more, so I will not need to waste time for it in the future. Shi Yang smiled and said. Ha ha ha, no problem. The grudge inside Yi Zhongfeng's heart seemed to be removed. He laughed comfortably and said, don't you worry. If you need to refine the spiritualizing pellet in the future, you just need to find me. Certainly, no problem. If you go to the divine great land later, Bring this token to the Spirit Potion Valley in the Dead Soul Mountain. Someone will surely receive you there. If we're in the divine Great Land, as long as we don't go out, we should be there. The token was made of bronze, with the front side having 6 pellets lining up, and the back side having a word that read Li. My master is a grade 6 sacred level alchemist. His surname's Li. This token represents him, Yi Zhongfeng explained. Shi Yang nodded, took the token away and then said, I should thank you then. I still want to stay in this swamp a little longer. You should go up first. No need to wait for me. After getting out of here, I will go back to the Endless Sea. I think we will meet in the Divine Great Land next time. Why do you still want to go back there? Yi Zhongfeng's face changed slightly. I have heard that the Endless Sea is extremely chaotic at this time. The demon dwellers and the dark dwellers are now raging in the Endless Sea. The forces in the Endless Sea are also uniting to deal with them. If you go there now, I am afraid that you will get stuck there. Shi Yang frowned. I have something to do. Ah, yes. I have heard that Yang Tian Emperor, the leader of the Yang family, has escaped the heavenly demon sealing divine formation and he will go back to the Endless Sea in a few days. Yang Tian Emperor is indeed an outstanding hero with great dignity. It's unexpected that he could escape the Demon King's confinement. It is said that he deliberately entered the heavenly demon sealing divine formation because he wanted to use the heavenly demon sealing divine formation to cultivate some secret technique. If he goes back to the Endless Sea, the situation in the Endless Sea will inevitably change again. Yi Zhongfeng thought for a while then said with a low voice. Shi Yang's eyes brightened. Has he escaped the heavenly demon sealing divine formation? Yes, that's what I've heard. But, I'm not sure. Yi Zhongfeng nodded. I'm not very clear about the situation of the Endless Sea. However, inside the 4th demon area, there are some of our race's warriors who have asked my master to refine some pellets. They told us that information. I'm not sure if it is true or not. Shi Yang took a deep breath and said, Thank you for this information. Yang Tian Emperor is a talented person indeed. At the first sky of the spirit realm, he can resist the Demon King. That kind of person is scarce even in our divine Great Land. It seems that the world is vast, and it is not just the divine Great Land that can have that kind of earth-shaking warriors, Yi Zhongfeng said with an admiring face. Any other information regarding the Endless Sea that you know? Shi Yang asked again. I really don't know much. I just know that it's very messy out there. Yi Zhongfeng shook his head. During this time, I have been staying in the dark magnetic noxious mist, not going to the Endless Sea. If you go back there, you should be careful. I've heard that forces from everywhere are looking for your whereabouts and offering a high-value reward for your life. Dragging a faint smile out of the corner of his mouth, Shi Yang looked quite arrogant. All right, I'm going up now. Take care. Remember to visit the Spirit Potion Valley in the Dead Soul Mountain to see me later. Yi Zhongfeng just reminded him to be careful and said nothing more before leaving the ice rock. As soon as Yi Zhongfeng left, Shi Yang released his soul consciousness to communicate with the king of demonic insects, telling him to put up the barrier at the entrance again. After the demonic insect sank into the swamp, it received Shi Yang's soul consciousness and then did as he wanted. The tremor happened, and the barrier of the entrance appeared again. The king of demonic insects and the crystal lotus throne left the swamp slowly. The king of demonic insects stayed inside the crystal lotus throne, as it seemed to be absorbing the essence of the immortal blood. Shi Yang hesitated for a while and then sat straight on the crystal lotus throne, closing his eyes and meditating. His acupuncture points bulged. The negative feelings burst out, overwhelming his entire body and affecting his mind. When the mystery martial spirit purified his acupuncture points, all kinds of negative feelings started to penetrate his body, and the backfire of these negative feelings made him crazy. On the crystal lotus throne, he panted, revealing a ferocious look and red eyes, like a bloodthirsty beast. Not long after that, under the effect of the backfire, his entire body was extremely painful. His body shrank, rolling over on the crystal lotus throne, and producing inhuman roars, releasing bursts of aura that could destroy all creatures. Under his crazy, bloodthirsty aura, some insects next to the swamp gradually moved away, not daring to come close to him. Even the king of demonic insects in the crystal lotus throne quietly went out. Its small, green eyes looked at him with surprise, blinking with strange lights. It didn't know what was happening in Shi Yang's body. At this moment, Shi Yang was scattering out an evil aura, which also made him look scary. The king of demonic insects didn't expect this new master with a low realm to have such a horrible aura. Shi Yang crazily roared and destroyed all things in the swamp, including the giant ancient trees and the floating corpses in the swamp. Violent unconsciousness. This state lasted for almost half a day. Shi Yang then gradually subsided, and the body's evil aura gradually returned normal. After a period of time, he sat down on the crystal lotus throne, closing his eyes and sensing something. One day passed. Shi Yang slowly woke up and revealed a faint smile, stretched out his right hand, feeling 5 more drops of immortal blood and the vigorous profound qi in there. Sensing the changes of the mystery martial spirit, he felt overjoyed. It seems that all of the life original fluid will belong to me, Shi Yang grinned. If you have enough of that kind of blood, I can exchange. The king of demonic insects replied. Shi Yang hesitated a little bit. My blood can really have that much of use to you? Of course. Triggering his mind, Shi Yang suddenly remembered the devouring gold silkworm. After hesitating for a short while, he connected his mind with the blood vein ring, using the soul consciousness to wrap the devouring gold silkworm and hauling it out of the blood vein ring. The devouring gold silkworm emitted dazzling lights. Right after showing up, it immediately bared its fangs and claws as it seemed to want to break the shackle on its body. Shi Yang looked at the devouring gold silkworm, contemplated for a long while, and then suddenly bled a drop of immortal blood, dropping it on the gold silkworm. Seeing that drop of immortal blood, the devouring gold silkworm abruptly showed an extreme desire, struggling and then swallowing that drop of immortal blood. Shi Yang initially wanted to give it that drop of blood, so he didn't hesitate to directly drip it into its mouth. Swallowing the immortal blood, the devouring gold silkworm's entire body burst out blazing lights. It seemed to be full of energy, as it excitedly tore apart the restraint on its body. Buzz buzz. The devouring gold silkworm produced earth-splitting sounds, suddenly danced up in front of him and opening its mouth to spit out a sparkling golden silk fiber. Chapter 426. The Godblood's Magical Effects. Chapter 426. The Godblood's Magical Effects. After the devouring gold silkworm swallowed the drop of his immortal blood, it was extremely excited. The gold silkworm's entire body glinted with a splendid golden light, and it was spitting out a slender strand of golden silk. Shi Yang blankly looked at the devouring gold silkworm in astonishment. This golden silk glowed with a trace of blood-red color, and fluttered with the wind at the gold silkworm's mouth. It didn't look different from any normal silk fiber. Shi Yang immersed his mind in the silk fiber and could feel that it somehow had a delicate connection with him. Perhaps it was the effect of the immortal blood. He looked at the gold silk and scattered his soul consciousness that attached to the fiber. It was unexpected that the silk fiber could absorb the consciousness in his mind and change its movement according to his mind's control. This silk fiber became an extension of his hands and feet, connected with his mind. After the devouring gold silkworm spat out the silk fiber, its body slightly dimmed. It leaned against the crystal lotus and seemed to be watching him in silence. Different from the past, the devouring gold silkworm clearly had his breath this time. Thanks to a drop of the immortal blood, the devouring gold silkworm and he now had a subtle contact. Beyond his expectation, the devouring gold silkworm looked at him for a while before proactively re-entering the blood vein ring, staying there obediently without struggling. Seemed like the silkworm now considered the blood vein ring its own shelter. The silk fiber, with a trace of blood color in its strange light, was moving in the air according to his mind. It was like a small sword. When the golden light flashed, the giant ancient trees around were all cut down. Shi Yang's eyes suddenly brightened. This silk apparently was not the same as in the past, as it seemed to have become a quenched secret treasure which he could freely control without any stagnation. After a little hesitation, his mind controlled and slowly pulled back the golden silk fiber. He stretched out his hand, pulling the golden fiber into his palm. A blood connection-like feeling suddenly jumped into his heart. The golden silk was like a part of his body, and his soul consciousness perfused it. The golden fiber slowly fused into his palm, as if it had become a golden silk pattern. As long as he triggered his mind, this golden silk fiber would immediately fly out from his palm, moving and dancing as he pleased. The golden fiber was as sharp as a knife, but this silk with a touch of bloodlight seemed to be even more powerful, becoming a wonderful killing tool in his hand. While fighting others, he could release the golden silk fibers as a surprise, which could intimidate and directly ravage the opponents. He was secretly joyful about this major change of the golden silk fiber. On the crystal lotus throne, the king of demonic insects was still observing him, seeing him take out the devouring gold silkworm and shedding a drop of the immortal blood for it. The king of demonic insects then saw the devouring gold silkworm spew out strange golden fiber, and Shi Yang use his mind to grab the gold silk in his hand and smash down all the ancient trees around. That fellow is powerful. If it continues to use your blood, it may also have a mutation, evolving to a higher level. The king of demonic insects sent him a message. What? Shi Yang was excited and beamed a smile. According to you, my blood has a unique effect on living creatures like you? Of course. What is it specific? Can you tell me? Your kind of blood has the ancient god's bloodline inside, which helps improve our evolution, so that our living beings can become more perfect. Moreover, this can be described as the blood of God. One day, with the use of your blood, we can evolve to the form which is not much different from your human form, even more perfect than yours. I quite don't understand what you mean. There is the life mark in your blood. Even though it is not perfect, it already has enough nutrients for us. The more powerful the beasts are, the better ability they have to see the benefit of this blood with the life mark. If it is possible to absorb the life mark completely in this god blood, the benefits that we get are hard to estimate. Shi Yang was silent. He had heard from the demonic sound clan that in the remote antiquity, there were 3 great god kings. The blood of each god king had its own unique effect. The immortal god king was only one of the original god kings. The immortal blood had an extraordinary effect, and the ice-cold flame seemed to have mentioned it before. It had said that the immortal blood could make the damaged secret treasure recover. The effect of the immortal martial spirit was that it could heal the broken bodies. If someone cultivated it to the peak, that person's body would be immortal. As long as the immortal blood existed, even if a skeleton was shattered, it could still recondense and be reborn in the world. He still didn't know clearly about the magical effect of the immortal blood. Only Yang Tian Emperor, the head of the Yang family, seemed to know the real purpose of the immortal blood, and exerted its potential effect to the extreme. I'm leaving the swamp. How about you? After frowning and contemplating for a while, he continued their conversation. Do you still want to be here or go out with me? I'm going with you, of course. Can you leave this place? Of course. This crystal lotus throne is the control for the various barriers in this bog. There is no problem for me to leave this place. You can put me in the same place as that silkworm. As for the life original liquid, it is always in my body. As long as you satisfy me, I will obviously do as we've agreed, giving you 1 drop of it. After giving all this life original fluid to you, I will also have enough of your blood, and then, I will leave and return here. Shi Yang was stunned. There is nothing to be worried. You will not lose anything from this agreement. You have what I want, and I have what you want. You and I are both happy. Isn't it good? Okay, Shi Yang smiled and lifted up the blood vein ring. He first released a ray of consciousness into the blood vein ring. He waited until it shot out the bloodlight and then said to the king of demonic insects, "You can get in now. Since it can accommodate the golden silkworm, it can contain you as well." As soon as he finished talking, the king of demonic insects immediately turned into a bunch of silver light beams and disappeared into the blood vein ring. After exploring, he found a new crystal lotus condensed by a strange energy emerged inside the blood vein ring. The king of demonic insects sat on the crystal lotus and was covered with flashing silver lights. It was observing everything around curiously. The ice-cold flame and the earth flame were on the 2 sides of the crystal lotus separately. They burst out flames, vigilantly watching the strange thing which had just settled down as their neighbor. There are other fellows here. The king of demonic insects was surprised. It observed the blood vein ring for a while and then immediately realized that other than the gold silkworm, there were another two living beings even stranger than itself. They were purely living flames, but they were not entities. Anyway, they could still release terrifying auras. The ice-cold flame was chilly to the bone with dense, icy aura. Meanwhile, the earth flame was a scorching, bursting burning flame. These two different, strange heaven flames were both safe in the blood vein ring, kept at a distance from it and the gold silkworm. They just silently released their own mighty aura, as if they were warning it to be careful. Not just because it was powerful in the outside world, it could do whatever it wanted in the blood vein ring. Well, not just you alone, so you should stay in there obediently. Don't think that because you could control the demon insects in the swamp, you can act recklessly in there. As far as I've seen, after entering the blood vein ring, your power is not as strong as the others. Perhaps you will even suffer if you get involved in a fight with them, Shi Yang warned it calmly. The king of demonic insects was a little surprised. It secretly felt the breath of the ice-cold flame and the earth flame for a long while before sending out a message. I will not mess with them. Shi Yang nodded with a smile. At this moment, another cold light suddenly shot out from a wall beneath the crystal lotus throne, entering the blood vein ring, and then stayed in its own place. The Holy Spirit God. Strands of cold air spread out from the rich heaven and earth aura. After being dormant and absorbing a big amount of heaven and earth aura, the Holy Spirit God finally recovered 60 to 70% of its strength. After it had escaped into the blood vein ring, the crystal lotus throne suddenly lacked the aura. The floating silver smog gradually dissipated. Shi Yang was stunned and released his soul consciousness immediately to communicate with the Holy Spirit God. Why did you return so late? Below the crystal lotus throne is a spring of aura which has a powerful heaven and earth aura. After absorbing it for a long while, I had already consumed 70 or 80% of it. My strength has also recovered by more than half. That's why I've just come back now. Is there anything wrong? No. Shi Yang shook his head with a complicated complexion. When the Holy Spirit God entered the blood vein ring, the king of demonic insects was very frightened. Before, it had been aware that the Holy Spirit God had penetrated the aura spring below the crystal lotus throne, and it had also released its spirit to check but got nothing. The Holy Spirit God was different from human warriors, as its living being was incredibly strange. It didn't get affected by the king of demonic insects' spiritual impact, not even by the slightest bit. Knowing that there was clearly a creature in the aura spring below the crystal lotus throne but not being able to check it out, the king of demonic insects was worried. Currently, since the Holy Spirit God had absorbed enough aura and suddenly entered the blood vein ring, the king of demonic insects now knew that the Holy Spirit God was also from Shi Yang. At this moment, the king of demonic insects looked at Shi Yang with more caution. It started to feel that Shi Yang was not an ordinary warrior. Daring to keep many strange creatures at the same place without being worried to have it backfire on him, this kind of person was either a bold, strong man or a crazy one. I want to take some time to digest your blood. So, don't disturb me during this time unless you encounter a great danger. The king of demonic insects contemplated for a while and then sent out a strand of consciousness. Chapter 427, Farewell. Chapter 427, Farewell. On the island. Zhao Feng, Kai Xiao, Li Yu, and Cai Yi were standing at the entrance, waiting for him in silence. They had been waiting for 2 days. Why hasn't Shi Yang come out yet? Has anything happened to him in there? Master, is it true that you encountered many dangerous things inside but are still safe and sound thanks to him? Zhuoshe was puzzled. Zhuoshu smiled wryly and nodded reluctantly. If it weren't for Shi Yang, perhaps we would have been buried in there. You didn't go down there, so you can't imagine how dangerous it is. To be honest, Shi Yang's decision was correct. It is fortunate that you guys didn't go down there together, or else you couldn't have stayed alive. The Laro brothers revealed frightened faces. They all understood that without Shi Yang's help, they would have died already. They were grateful to Shi Yang from the bottom of their hearts. This guy Shi Yang can't be evaluated in a normal way. Although he only has a cultivation base of Skyrealm, he still can cause rain by turning his hand over, which really surprises and puzzles other people. Kai Xiao nodded and then shook his head slightly, as he felt that he was old now and couldn't see through Shi Yang anymore. In the Quiet Cloud Merchant Union that year, although Shi Yang had exposed his ability and potential, his strength had not been this intimidating. How long had passed since then? From the Disaster Realm that year, he had reached the Sky Realm, and even unexpectedly surpassed him. This cultivating speed could shock both the ancient and modern worlds, and had never been heard before. Warriors of the Divine Great Land like Zhao Feng and Cai Yi now could know more about Shi Yang's origin through Kai Xiao, Zhuo Shu, and the others. The more they knew about Shi Yang, the more surprised they were, as it was nearly impossible to believe what Zhu Shu and the others said. If they didn't know Kai Xiao and the other people before, and they were certain that those people had no reason to deceive them, they would not ever believe it no matter they lived or died. This kid really has a potential and glorious future. I'm looking forward to seeing him shine in the Divine Great Land. I always feel that his potential doesn't just stop there. If he goes to the Divine Great Land in the future, perhaps he can even surpass other outstanding warriors of the 7 factions, becoming the most dazzling star, Zhao Feng said emotionally. Li Yu and the other Divine Radiant cult warriors also nodded with their complicated faces. Shi Yang's performance during these days had impressed them deeply and changed their thoughts. They now know that although the Divine Great Land was immense, it couldn't include all extraordinary young warriors in the world. It was unexpected that there existed such an extraordinary warrior like Shi Yang in the remote Endless Sea. They now came to a realization that magical and wonderful things could be seen everywhere. I know that he belongs in the Divine Great Land. Li Yu beamed a smile and said, with his momentum, I'm afraid that the Endless Sea cannot nourish him or bind him for so long. Sooner or later, he will come to our Divine Great Land, and then take the wings and surf the waves to become a mighty dragon. I'm sure about it. Zhao Feng and his fellows all agreed with it. Cai Yi's eyes also revealed the same thought. She was longing for a day when he could come to the Divine Great Land to develop all of his potential strength. Not long after that, he will come to our Divine Great Land. I'm right. We will take him to see the elders of the sect, and this will make them pleasantly startled. Zhao Feng pictured and couldn't help but laugh with pride. On the other side, Yi Zhongfeng, Lin Ji, Luo Xiao, and Luo Meng didn't leave either, still waiting on the island. Lin Ji was not as arrogant as before. When it came to Shi Yang, her face became obscure, and her tone a little respectful. Without this kid, we might have died there. That young man isn't human. Luo Meng looked at Yi Zhongfeng with a miserable countenance. Now, I finally believe what you've said. When that kid met you before, his realm was not high indeed. That kind of a person seems to have unlimited possibilities. That's right. Yi Zhongfeng nodded. Such a man will become an outstanding person. Although he hasn't come to the Divine Great Land yet, once he shows up there, I'm afraid that no one can stop him. I'm looking forward to seeing him strike here and there in our Divine Great Land. I believe that day is not too far away. Lin Jie, do you still hate that brat? Lu Xiao suddenly asked. Lin Ji's face changed while she thought about him. Her cheeks still felt slightly burning, and her face wore the feeling of insecurity. Shi Yang had cruelly taken action, which left a very profound impact on her. She had thought that she would find Shi Yang to take revenge in the future. But when Yi Zhongfeng told her what had happened as well as that Shi Yang had generously given him a drop of the life original fluid, the hatred inside her heart faded away. Yi Zhongfeng's master had done her a favor before, so she was also very grateful to him and concerned about his situation. She voluntarily came to the dark magnetic noxious mist with Yi Zhongfeng with the purpose of repayment, hoping to do something for the master. Shi Yang's generous deed of giving out 1 drop of the life original fluid puzzled her a lot, as she couldn't understand how Shi Yang could be that generous. The number of the 3rd sky of spirit realm warriors of the 7 ancient factions was not small, and because of 1 drop of the life original fluid, they could do whatever it took to have it. The preciousness of the life original fluid was hard to describe with mere words. The fact that Shi Yang had generously given them 1 drop of the life original fluid somehow puzzled Lin Ji and made her appreciate him. It is not easy to see through this person. He is sometimes fierce and cruel, sometimes kind and generous, which is hard for other people to imagine. I haven't known him for a long time, but I know that he is not the kind of ruthless people. If he were a ruthless guy, he would never have done this ridiculous thing when he could easily exterminate us. Yi Zhongfeng contemplated for a while and then said with sincere eyes, "No matter how, with this one drop of the life original fluid, my master and I owe him a big favor. In the future, anytime he needs me in the divine great land, I will certainly put all of my effort to do anything for him." Well, having relations with someone like him isn't bad at all. Luo Xiao and Luo Meng nodded. When he comes out, we will bid him our farewell. As we owe him a big favor, waiting for a few days is nothing, Yi Zhongfeng said. Lin Ji also nodded. After midnight, a majestic figure flew out of the entrance. Yi Zhongfeng and the others hurriedly rushed over. "Boy, you finally get out. You made us wait for too long." Zhao Feng burst into laughter as soon as he saw Shi Yang. "Boy, I can see that the god light in your eyes seems to be sharper than before. Have you gained something more in the swamp down there?" Shi Yang beamed a smile, looked at everyone and nodded. "Not really a harvest. But I did cultivate a little bit, and my profound qi richer than before. Hey, I bothered you a lot, letting you wait until now. Sorry. Ha ha ha, you're welcome." Zhao Feng laughed out loud while walking towards Shi Yang and patting his shoulder. "Can you talk about what really happened in the bog?" "There's nothing to say." Unfolding his two hands, Shi Yang said, "There's nothing to say. I actually have some connection with the king of demonic insects, and got some useful information from it. I should use a special thing in exchange for the life original fluid, but I cannot have it right now." "You can get the life original fluid from the king of demonic insects, really?" Zhao Feng revealed a frightened face while his eyes burned. Shi Yang didn't want to hide this, so he nodded with a smile. "Yes." Everyone looked startled, showing a face with full of expectations. "As I have said, now is not the right time. When you enter the third sky of the spirit realm, you can come and see me." "A drop of the life original fluid is not a big deal," Shi Yang promised. Everyone was crazily overjoyed. "Well, it's time to go. I have to return to the endless sea first. After a period of time, I may go to the divine great land and will find you there." Shi Yang looked at Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng constantly nodded with a smile. "I will wait for you to come. I'm sure that the God's sect people will welcome you when you come to the divine great land." There are not many outstanding warriors in this generation of the God's sect. Your appearance will make the elders of the God's sect overjoyed. If I use the life original fluid in exchange for my friend who is in the Pure Land people's hands, is it possible? Shi Yang pondered for a while before asking. Zhao Feng was bewildered and hesitated a little bit, and then said, "It's hard to say. But I think it's possible. If your friend's value is not too special, the elders of our God's sect can represent you in the exchange. So, it's possible. Shi Yang, if your position in the God's sect is promoted in the future, and your cultivation base reaches a certain level, the God's sect would be willing to invest in you," Li Yu assured him. Shi Yang nodded. "We should leave now and have to say thank you." Yi Zhongfeng walked over and bent down with a solemn face. "If you have any trouble in the future, remember to use the way I showed you to find us. Although my master's realm is not at the peak, his voice is still respected in the divine great land. If you have troubles, my master will definitely help you out." "Who is your master?" Zhao Feng was surprised because of Yi Zhongfeng's arrogant tone. Hence, he couldn't help but ask. "My master is an alchemist. His surname is Li." Yi Zhongfeng smiled and replied. Zhao Feng frowned and thought for a while. His entire body suddenly trembled as he asked in fear, could he be the one from the Spirit Potion Valley, the Dead Soul Mountain? Yi Zhongfeng nodded. Zhao Feng was dumbstruck and couldn't help but shout, "It's him." Chapter 428, The Return Journey. Chapter 428, The Return Journey. "What?" Shi Yang was dumbstruck, looking at Zhao Feng with a puzzled face. "Is that old man famous?" "You will know when you come to the divine great land." Zhao Feng smiled mysteriously. "Even the Pure Land people have to respect him a lot." I didn't expect that this young man is that old man's successor. No wonder why. Shi Yang was surprised. All right. We look forward to seeing you soon in the divine great land. We should go now. Zhao Feng beamed a smile, said to Li Yu and the others, and then bid a farewell. Take care. Cai Yi smiled, walking over and looking at Shi Yang. She seemed to have so many things to say to him. However, in the end, she just said, remember to find me. If you don't come to see me, I'll find you. Find me? Shi Yang beamed a smile and didn't seem to understand her thinking. You and I might have a few opportunities to see each other in the divine great land in the future. Anyway, we don't need to meet again. You are such a cold guy. Cai Yi harumphed and suddenly said, that's all right. I'll find you as there are still some things that I need to tell you. Her tone was ambiguous. Everyone suddenly burst out in laughter, expressing a thoughtful face. Goodbye, Cai Yi smiled and whispered. She turned around, glancing at the Laro brothers. Thank you, brother. We will remember your kindness. The Laro brothers said simultaneously. Shi Yang nodded with a smile. Let's go. We will return together. Having regards for Shi Yang, we will protect you guys on the way back. Zhao Feng smiled and said to Cai Yi and the Laro brothers. Goodbye. Shi Yang waved his hands, watching Cai Yi, Zhao Feng, and the others leave slowly, disappearing together with Yi Zhongfeng's group. Not long after that, there were only Shi Yang, Kai Xiao, Zuoshu, and Zuosha left on the island. Do you have the Lai original fluid? Waiting until after everyone left, Kai Xiao took a deep breath and asked with a solemn countenance. Yes, Shi Yang smiled and nodded. When you enter the third sky of spirit realm, remember to find me. I'll definitely give you the life original fluid if I have it. After pausing for a while, he looked at Zuoshu and Zuoshu. You guys, too. The three of them revealed grateful faces. Let's go. We shall leave this place and go to the endless sea. Shi Yang didn't hesitate more as he suddenly remembered the situation in the endless sea, which made him not want to linger in the dark magnetic noxious mist any longer. Kai Xiao and the other two people nodded. A group of 4 people left this exotic land, jumping into the dark magnetic noxious mist and heading to the endless sea. On a certain day, Shi Yang and the other 3 people crossed the dark magnetic noxious mist and finally came to the border of some land. Seeing the sunlight, they all had a feeling of being reborn. The sky was full of stars, which secretly showered and penetrated into Shi Yang's martial spirit in a mysterious way, which ordinary people couldn't recognize. Shi Yang revealed an excited face with happy eyes. It was unknown why, but he could sense that the speed of the stars penetrating into his body was obviously 3 times faster than when he had first entered the dark magnetic noxious mist. Naked eyes could not see it clearly, but still could realize the stars overwhelming the sky. They flew down like a shower and then disappeared into his martial spirit, quietly reinforcing his star martial spirit. Perhaps when he entered the sky realm in that exotic land, the mysterious energy had enhanced his star martial spirit, so that it could accommodate more of the star power. In short, the absorption capacity of the star martial spirit had substantially increased, which was an indisputable fact. The 3 people, Kai Xiao, Zuoshu, and Zuosha couldn't realize the transformation in Shi Yang's body either. They could only see his happy face and knew that he was probably feeling good. What's the matter? Zuoshu smiled and asked, is it because seeing the sun makes you feel heartedly joyful? When you come out after a long time in the dark magnetic noxious mist, the feeling is really good, isn't it? Shi Yang didn't say anything, just nodded and smiled. The endless sea is really in a complicated situation. Kai Xiao looked over at the west with a solemn face. His eyes brightened. Are the demon dwellers and the dark dwellers both in the endless sea? Yes. It's terrible. Seems like we have to make a detour since that place should be very dangerous at this time. It's the best if we can avoid crossing the endless sea. Kai Xiao kept silent for a while and then said, we have to separate here, I guess. Shi Yang nodded and said, after going back to the Merchant Union, please tell my grandfather not to be too worried about the Merchant Union situation. Wait until I'm done with the things in the endless sea. I will think of a solution to help you. Well, if it's possible, I will send someone to pick you up and let you leave that small merchant union. Zhuoshu's eyes suddenly brightened. Zhuoshu nodded constantly and said happily, "That's very good. Only after having a journey out of that place have we now realized that our merchant union is really small. The cultivation base of the warriors of our place also seems to be too low. Look at the warriors from the divine Greatland. Although they are at the same age as us, they have already reached the nirvana or sky realm. I don't want to be a frog in a well forever." Kai Xiao revealed a wry smile, reluctantly shook his head and let out a sigh. In the dark magnetic noxious mist this time, he had been injured severely. Seeing the young warriors who were already at the sky realm, he couldn't help but feel unspeakably frustrated. Especially Shi Yang. Since he left the merchant union, he had already entered the sky realm from the disaster realm in just a few years. That cultivation speed was just incredible. Kai Xiao didn't know that it was because of the impact of the mysterious martial spirit on his body. He just thought that it was the impact of the environment, and for the first time, he was aware of how important a good cultivation environment was to warriors. After going back this time, we will prepare to leave the merchant union. Rest assured, I will definitely tell your grandfather about your current situation. Zhuoshu took a deep breath, smiled, and said, "Your grandfather would not have expected that you have already surpassed him and all other predecessors of the Shi family." Shi Yang burst into laughter. "You have to promise that when we see each other again, you will bring us a greater surprise." Kai Xiao looked at him deeply and said, "You have too many miracles. I think that one day, you can surpass those who are called high-class warriors and stand on the summit above all of them. I'm certain about that day." "Thank you for your kind words." Shi Yang beamed a smile. Kai Xiao and the other two people kept giving him compliments for a while and then talked about the merchant union situation. Finally, they bid farewell outside the dark magnetic noxious mist and took a detour to go back to the merchant union. Shi Yang looked at the sea far away and suddenly burst out laughing, turning into a bunch of starlights and flying straight to the vault of Heaven Sea area. The endless sea. 1 year had quickly passed. The 5 sea territories were constantly at war. Demon dwellers, dark dwellers, humans, and beasts all appeared on those 5 seas. Because of the cultivation materials and racial hatred, they fought against each other and never subsided. The Kiara Sea and the Yuanluo Sea now became the place of the demon dwellers and the dark dwellers. The dark dwellers temporarily occupied the Kiara Sea while the Yuanluo Sea was dominated by the demon dwellers. Among the 5 big sea areas, only the 3 left belonged to human warriors. Because of the invasion of the 2 big races, the endless sea was continuously facing wars, and didn't seem like it would settle anytime soon. The border between the Kiara Sea and the Yuanluo Sea was the region that linked with the 3 big seas. It was unknown how many creatures had died there. Thousands of pagans and warriors fought in the endless sea, turning the endless sea into a Shura bloodfield with corpses everywhere. Human civilians in this battle were in panic and extreme misery. They didn't have hope or directions of the future, as they were frightened that the pagan races would come and slaughter the island where they were living, turning it into a dead island. Today, on a vast island of the Black Sea, human warriors and pagan warriors were still fighting. After the bloody battle had finished, all the human warriors were beheaded. No one could escape. Corpses were everywhere on the island, including humans, demon dwellers, demon beasts, and more. A figure quietly appeared in the piles of bones, wandering around the island with stingy blood smell. He frowned and revealed a dark complexion. There was no one left on the island. The man released his soul consciousness and realized that nobody existed on the island, even with the smallest surging vitality. On this vast island, only vultures were flying and excitedly eating the corpses. Mosquitoes were scattered around, and the pungent stench rose. It was an extremely horrible scene. Getting away from the corpses, he stopped for a short while and then crossed the island, flying towards the Wind Cloud Island. The Wind Cloud Island was situated between the Yuanluo Sea and the Black Sea. The heaven and earth aura there was very thin, so very few warriors stayed here. Previously, since the Xia family left the Kiara Sea, they temporarily settled in the Wind Cloud Island as they didn't yield to the Endless Sea warriors. Returning to the Endless Sea, he didn't know clearly about the situation there and didn't dare to show up. To get news of the Xia family, his only way was to explore and eavesdrop on the other force's warriors. All the way there, he deliberately avoided the islands where warriors gathered, hid his whereabouts, and used some special way to cover up his appearance, as he didn't want other people to recognize his identity. The Endless Seas situation was convoluted. Only after knowing the situation thoroughly would he be able to determine the next step to take. Going to the Wind Cloud Island, he released his soul consciousness to detect lives on the island. Wherever his soul consciousness passed, no trace of life responded. He couldn't even detect a beast on the whole island. This place was full of dead aura and seemed like it had been barren for a long time. Walking around the island, he still couldn't find any human warriors or pagans, or even human bones for that matter. It seemed civilians here had left this desolated island a long time ago. He obviously couldn't find the Xia family either. Dark clouds suddenly covered the sky. In the clouds, a dark aura slowly bred, as strange energy movements came out from time to time. Shi Yang was startled. He frowned while looking at the dark clouds. His face became solemn while he was secretly on alert. Chapter 429, The Dark Dwellers. Chapter 429, The Dark Dwellers. Dark clouds fully capped the sky, such that sunlight could not pierce through to shine on the Wind Cloud Island. The warm island became gloomy and cold all of a sudden. Dark clouds slowly descended above the forest on the Wind Cloud Island, and a dark aura overwhelmed everywhere. Shi Yang frowned while looking up at the clusters of dark cloud in the sky. His heart was agitated, as he secretly hid his own trace of breath. The third eye of his host soul in his sea of consciousness suddenly brightened, releasing the spiritual power that hindered the exploration of souls, preventing all kinds of soul consciousnesses from coming close to him. Hiding in an ancient tree, he quietly looked through the small gap. Not long after that, 3 figures gradually appeared from the dark clouds. One of them was an old man with grey hair at his temples. The second one was a young man with an outstanding appearance but an inwardly evil-hearted mind. The last one was Yi Siyu Bai of the demonic Sound clan. The 3 of them came out from the dark clouds and stood in the forest with calm expressions while discussing with a low tone. Looking at them from a distance, Shi Yang realized that the bodies of the 2 men were chilly cold, with incredibly strong energy spiritual fluctuations. It was clear that they knew how to use soul energy. The Dark Dwellers. Just after a quick glance, he could confirm the identity of those 2 men. The Dark Dwellers' physical health was different from that of humans and demon dwellers. Their physical state tended to be yin and cold. They didn't like to waste their energy in training their bodies. Instead, they considered soul cultivating their lifelong goal. The Dark Dwellers had a feeble physique. Yet, although they looked weak, their souls were mighty. The temperament and souls of those 2 men were the same as those of Yi Siyu Bai. They were obviously from the same race. The handsome young man was talking something to Yi Siyu Bai, which looked like he was trying to cheer her up. However, Yi Siyu Bai wore an indifferent face while responding to him perfunctorily. She then urged that young man to act faster. The old man seemed to carefully protect the young man, releasing his soul conscious to detect and prevent any strangers from coming close. See you by my, if we find the yin jade crystal this time, my father will refine a dark yin cold pellet himself. It can help you expand your sea of consciousness twice, and soon, you'll reach the second sky of Sky Realm. Your soul will enhance one step further. The young man smiled and said with a longing face. Refining the dark yin cold pellet is extremely difficult. My father condenses this pellet with the hope of receiving your father's favor. The demonic Sound clan is the main branch of the Dark Dwellers. After invading the Kiara Sea and sharing rare cultivation resources, Dark Dwellers' forces will be obviously more powerful. Your father is the 3rd-generation leader of the demonic Sound clan, and he will also gain great benefits in the future. Yi Siyu Bai looked at him but didn't say anything. Siyu Bai mai, tell me what my weakness is after all. Why don't you agree to our marriage? The young man helplessly asked with a worried face. Doesn't my status match yours? You should probably know how I have been treating you during the whole year. What I've done is not good enough for you. It's not about being good enough. It is just that I don't like you, Yi Siyu Bai finally said. I remember that before you met me, you have had numerous relationships with beautiful women. You've never lacked women, so why do you have to stick with me? You're different from the other women. The young man raised his hands and vowed. Before seeing you, the other women were just a game. I've never been touched. But after seeing you, everything's changed. Because of you, I have already cut off the relationships with those women so that you can be moved and pay attention to me. Is it not enough for you? Yi Siyu Bai continued to shake her head with a cold complexion. That young man helplessly continued to linger with an honest face and a sincere voice. It looked like he was exposing his heart to her. Inside the bush, Shi Yang coldly looked at them and sneered in his mind. After only 1 year, the demonic Sound Clan people had unexpectedly blended with the Dark Dwellers very well, evidently becoming one race. Their relationship was much closer. The fact that the young man pursued Yi Siyu Bai patiently was probably because of Yi Tianmo's status and position. He wanted to seek the marriage bond with Yi Siyu Bai to tie himself with the demonic Sound Clan, avoiding the possibility of Yi Tianmo having wicked intentions. Watching Yi Siyu Bai leisurely walking in the forest with a graceful appearance, Shi Yang's eyes gradually calmed down. He remembered the time when he had first met Yi Siyu Bai. In that abandoned land, this woman took advantage of her mighty soul to destroy his soul protection directly. She then controlled and took him to the demonic Sound Clan's city. He and this woman also hunted the demon beasts in the Sound Beast Mountain together. So, they somehow had fate for a period of time. Time had passed. The demonic Sound Clan came out from the chasm battlefield and made a connection with the Dark Dwellers. This was something out of his expectation. The oaths of the 3 leaders of the demonic Sound Clan were still right next to his ears. However, they now yielded to the Dark Dwellers. Although he had never considered Yi Tianmo and the other 2 leaders his loyal right hands, he still didn't feel comfortable seeing this moment. He knew that Yi Tianmo and his people actually did it unwillingly. The Dark Dwellers and Demon Dwellers were too powerful indeed. It was not because the warriors in the Endless Sea had the same bloodline that the Dark Dwellers and the Demon Dwellers treated them as a partner. Although Yi Tianmo and Di Shan had an exceptional cultivation base, they still couldn't compare with the Demon Kings and the Dark Kings. Given the situation where they were not as excellent as the others, they had to bow their heads for the continuation of the race. Because of the future generation, they had to yield and finally followed the Demon and the Dark Dwellers. Shi Yang was not surprised. If he had the power to suppress the Demon Kings and protect the fellows of the demonic Sound Clan from the Demon Dwellers' infestation, perhaps Di Shan and his group would not have betrayed him and could have treated him as their master. Unfortunately, although he had an extremely rapid progress in cultivating his realm, he couldn't be compared with the Demon Kings who had been cultivating for hundreds of years. Even if he relied on the power of the Holy Spirit God, the Ice-Cold Flame, and the Earth Flame, the 3 strange creatures, he could only have one fight with the Demon Masters, but could hardly have the upper hand against the Demon Kings. Even now, although he really wanted to fight against Bo Zun or Kai Yang, he would be defeated in the end. Even the possibility of escape was hard to say. Previously, Kai Yang had borrowed Jiao Hanyi's body to cast out his earth-shaking power. By that time, only relying on Yi Zhongfeng had helped him escape without any remaining strength to counterattack. Right now, he had entered the Sky Realm, and the 3 great living beings had regained their strength. If they could merge together, he didn't know whether he would be able to fight against Kai Yang or not. He was still not sure. The old man following the young man should be the warrior of the Dark Dwellers. His spiritual fluctuations were like a strong gust. Leaves in the dense forest all shook up whenever he passed by. This kind of surging spirit, as sharp as a knife, couldn't be cast out unless the person who performed it was in the spirit realm. The Dark Dwellers at the spirit realm had a terrifyingly profound understanding of souls. Shi Yang subconsciously held his breath and released his consciousness without using any of his strength, coldly watching those 3 people passing 100 meters away with a solemn complexion. It seemed Yi Siyu Bai and the other 2 came here to search for some cultivating material. After walking around the Wind Cloud Island for a while, they bored into the dark clouds once again. He didn't know whether the 3 of them had harvested anything. Actually, he didn't care. After staying on the Wind Cloud Island for a while, He hesitated a little bit and then left, flying to the Black Sea. Inky Cloud Island. On a small island, there were many inky cloud stone blocks of the Black Sea. The island was heavily guarded. Warriors with different levels wandered here and there. A variety of strange barriers were established all over the island to prevent the pagans' invasion. Even before coming closer, Shi Yang could see many silhouettes walking back and forth on the island. This island belonged to the Heaven Lake Divine Land, and a majority of the warriors on the island were also from the Heaven Lake Divine Land. This island was more than 1,000 li away from the Wind Cloud Island. The Dark Dwellers and the Demon Dwellers didn't frequent this island. When Shi Yang came to the periphery of the island, a Disaster Realm warrior approached and asked his identity. As he realized that Shi Yang was a human warrior, he didn't really want to stop him and just carried out the regular procedure. After Shi Yang replied with a few words, saying that he was a solitary cultivating warrior, he was immediately allowed to enter the island. After getting onto the island, Shi Yang handed some middle-grade spiritual stones in exchange for the information of the situation on the island. The Inky Cloud Island belonged to the Heaven Lake Divine Land. There were no civilians on the island. Only around 100 warriors with low realms were temporarily stationed. Their duty was to visit the nearby sea territories regularly and inquire about the information about the Dark Dwellers and the Demon Dwellers. The Inky Cloud Island was currently under the control of a Heaven Lake Divine Land warrior at the second sky of Nirvana Realm. In the center of the island, there was a directional transfer formation which directly connected to the headquarters of the Heaven Lake Divine Land. Once the warriors on the island detected any Dark Dwellers or Demon Dwellers around, they would go into the directional transfer formation to leave this Inky Cloud Island immediately. Waiting after everything subsided, they would come back to the island and continued to spy on the surrounding sea territories, collecting information for the Heaven Lake Divine Land. Haha, our Holy Maiden comes to visit the island today. Have you ever seen our Holy Maiden? The man to whom Shi Yang offered a spiritual stone smiled ambiguously. Although our Holy Maiden's appearance is typical, she's really a great beauty. Anyways, she always wears a mask, so no one can really see her. Our Holy Maiden's body is graceful, and can be said to be perfect. If you give me one more spiritual stone, I will let you come close to the center of the island where the Holy Maiden is living. Perhaps you will be lucky enough to see her. Shi Yang smiled and shook his head. Forget about it. If it's only being able to see the figure instead of the true appearance, it's better not to see her at all. Chapter 430, Tear the Mask. Chapter 430, Tear the Mask. Kid, you know nothing. This person didn't look happy. He coldly stared at Shi Yang and said, if you can have just a glimpse of the Holy Maiden's figure, it would be your best luck already. Kid, what do you come to our Inky Cloud Island for? Nothing, Shi Yang frowned and replied. With his sky realm, as long as Shi Yang covered up himself, nobody could realize his real realm. For instance, right now, as he was hiding his real strength, the other warrior wasn't able to see through him. He just considered Shi Yang a human realm warrior and thus apparently exposed his disdain. The Holy Maiden's here. Liu Dao, be careful. Don't let the Holy Maiden see that you are lazy. Suddenly, a loud shout arose from a distance. A bold, hefty man sternly stared at the warrior who was talking to Shi Yang. Liu Dao mused and shut his mouth immediately. He slightly trembled in fear, looking away into the distance. Shi Yang also looked at the direction towards a small mountain not far away from him. At the bottom of the mountain, there was a row of red tile-roofed houses. A prominent figure slowly walked out from a 3-story house. It was Chu Yangqing. The clean, neat, silvery costume made her heart-shaking body even more beautiful. That ordinary face glinted with sharp, bright eyes, which revealed some kind of dignity that no one dared to despise. In the Heaven Lake Divine Land, Chu Yangqing had a high and noble position. To the general warriors of the Heaven Lake Divine Land, Chu Yangqing was undoubtedly the noble character whom they could only behold from a far distance. No one dared to express any feelings toward her, and could only keep them in their hearts. On the road, many warriors of the Heaven Lake Divine Land stared at her with a dignified look when she passed them. However, after she had walked over, Those people's eyes stuck onto her S**XY rear end. Chu Yangqing walked upright all the way while her beautiful eyes brightened. She headed straight to Shi Yang's place. A stranger comes to the island. She looked at Shi Yang, but the question was certainly for Liu Dao. Liu Dao slightly bent in fear and flattered. This guy said that he is from the Tutor Sea and went around the Yuanluo Sea. He said that he came to our Black Sea to find some cultivating materials. He has been cautious on the way and didn't confront the pagans. Chu Yangqing eyed Shi Yang from top to toe and then said, "Follow me. I have something to ask you." Her tone sounded like she didn't allow him to refuse. Shi Yang coldly sneered in his heart while still keeping a calm face and said, "Okay. Brat, behave. You have to answer when the holy maiden asks you. If you are not obedient, I will let you know what pain is." Shi Yang shrugged, but he was still calm. "Follow me." Chu Yangqing obviously came here because of him. She threw a glance at him with a cold and arrogant attitude, clearly considering him just a normal warrior. Shi Yang didn't say much and just followed her quietly. On the way there, he realized the warriors of the Heaven Lake Divine Land kept staring at Chu Yangqing with greedy eyes when they were behind her back. However, when they were in front of her, they all showed a frightened and serious expression. Secretly laughing in his mind, Shi Yang knew that Chu Yangqing was apparently delicious in those warriors' eyes, but they could only see and never have the opportunities to touch her for their whole life. He suddenly remembered the abandoned place where he had soothed this woman's bottom and torn her mask. So, on seeing those warriors of the Heaven Lake Divine Land, he suddenly had a feeling of arrogance. "I've touched your holy maiden." Shi Yang laughed and talked to himself. Arriving at the red tile-roofed house, Chu Yangqing went into the central 50-square-meter chamber which could seat many people. Chu Yangqing sat down on the principal chair and waved her hand, indicating that Shi Yang should also sit down on her left side. Shi Yang calmly sat down and looked at the front, realizing that the door was just slightly closed. There were two vague figures of warriors very far away, who could not see the scene or hear anything from here. "You have said that you are from the Tutor Sea. So, do you know the situation over there? Well, as long as it's the useful information, I'll give you a good reward." Chu Yangqing's voice was clear but cold, her eyes haughty. While talking, she slowly hauled out something and put it on the table. They were 3 top-grade shining spiritual stones. Her fingers gently tapped on them and asked indifferently, "I don't know." Shi Yang shook his head. "What?" Chu Yangqing frowned and revealed an unhappy face. "For a warrior with a low realm like you, these 3 spiritual stones are not a small reward. Do you still feel that the reward is still low? All right. Let me see how precious your information is. If it is rare enough, I will give you more rewards. What do you think?" "I'm not short of spiritual stones," Shi Yang shook his head and said. "I just want to know what's the current situation here. You are the holy maiden of the Heaven Lake Divine Land, so you should be aware the situation very well. Do you have anything to tell me?" Chu Yangqing's smile froze, her eyes looked at him strangely. When regular warriors saw her, they all appeared uneasy and scared. Given her identity and cultivation base, those warriors couldn't even make a smooth sentence. However, this person spoke calmly and even dared to pose her question. This made Chu Yangqing startled a little bit, as she felt that the person in front of her was somehow strange. "Do you know the situation of the Tutor Sea after all?" Chu Yangqing hesitated and asked arrogantly while her face darkened. "You should answer what I've asked you. I don't like people bargaining with me." After pausing for a short moment, Chu Yangqing spouted and ridiculed. "Do you think you are qualified enough to bargain with me?" Shi Yang smiled and confirmed with a nod, "Yes." "What?" Chu Yangqing raised her eyebrows and asked impatiently, "Based on what?" "I've touched you. You want to die?" Chu Yangqing suddenly stood up. Her face and eyes were cold. It seemed she was about to attack the man in front of her. As soon as she raised her hand, she immediately realized that Shi Yang had disappeared. In the next moment, a rough breath of a man blew on the nape of her neck. She was dumbstruck, and before she could have time to react, her thin mask was ripped off. "I always like your face behind the mask." Shi Yang smiled and bluntly tapped her breasts and said, They are still amazingly elastic like before. Your body is still mesmerizing. It is really not a waste for me to think about you. Chu Yangqing's face changed. Her graceful body suddenly trembled, and her voice seemed to be lost. Your voice. He had restored his original voice when saying those words. Shi Yang laughed and said, "Little beauty, you still remember my voice although we have been separated for so long. Not bad at all. Seems you have such a deep feeling for me. I'm thrilled. I will never forget your evil voice." Chu Yangqing gritted her teeth tightly and turned around coldly. She didn't know if she was in fear or excitement when she stared at him fiercely and said, "You dare to come back?" Shi Yang smiled with a surprised look and asked, "Why can't I return?" After asking, he sharply gazed at her beautiful, delicate face and complimented it with a smile. "You obviously have a mesmerizing face, so why do you want to cover it? It's really annoying. Well, I'm a person who is fond of flowers. Every time I see you, I will make this face display to receive the sunlight and absorb the heaven-earth aura. You be **starred. Yes, I may be **starred. Shi Yang accepted it and constantly nodded. He also reached his hand out and bluntly caressed her face. "But, many people are even more terrible than me. After promising me something, they immediately turned their backs and even sent someone to kill me. So, you tell me, your fellows or I, who is more of a **starred? And you? If it weren't for me saving you, could you still come back alive from the chasm battlefield? Could you live until now?" Chu Yangqing's aura suddenly weakened. "I remember in that abandoned place, you were the slave that I'd purchased. I was busy at that time, so I didn't really enjoy you. Shall we make it up now?" Shi Yang beamed an evil smile and said with a cruel tone. "You." Chu Yangqing was angry and regretted that she couldn't devour him. "You what?" Shi Yang sneered coldly. "I admit that what my master did was inappropriate." Chu Yangqing suddenly sighed, avoiding his provocation, and then sat down with a gloomy face. "But I couldn't control it. I didn't participate when my fellows were sent to kill you. Since you had left, you shouldn't have come back. When you come back, the situation will repeat. Those who are against you will do the same to you once again. They haven't been beaten up by the demon dwellers and dark dwellers." Shi Yang kept a cold face and smiled. "It seems the endless sea will be destroyed soon, and you guys still care about internal conflicts. When I have come back this time, I'm able to see the demon dwellers and the dark dwellers have completely occupied the endless sea. Well, that may be good anyways. Those people might as well die instead of staying in the endless sea. It is such a waste of cultivation materials if they live. Instead, they should save the resources for the pagans. You should not come back." Chu Yangqing said with a confused face. "There is no place for you in the endless sea. You can live well in other places, so why do you want to come back here? Oh, you seem to care for me a lot." Shi Yang was surprised. "Little beauty, did your heart fall for me? Well, I know my charm is irresistible, and you and I used to have **Zool contact. Women have a strange mind indeed. It is said that they have special feelings to those who ignore them or are contemptuous toward them. Are you the same? I don't care whether you are alive or dead." Chu Yangqing's face changed immediately. Her body trembled as she regretted that she couldn't strangle Shi Yang to death. Shi Yang still kept his cold attitude and looked at her with meaningful eyes. It seemed he was aware of something strange. Chapter 431, Shi Yang's Influence. Chapter 431, Shi Yang's Influence. Four eyes met, and both of them fell into silence all of a sudden. The atmosphere seemed to be bizarre. "You are the holy maiden of the Heaven Lake Divine Land. As long as the Heaven Lake Divine Land does not perish, you still can keep this noble position and receive the worship from these inferior fellows," Shi Yang contemplated for a while and then said calmly. "The reason why I'm here in front of you now is that I'm sure you are not narrow-minded, and perhaps you can tell me the current situation of the Endless Sea. What do you want to know?" Chu Yangqing frowned and asked. "I only know that the Yuanluo Sea and the Kiara Sea have belonged to the demon dwellers and dark dwellers. I'm not sure about the Three Gods sect, the Jiyu family, and the Dongfeng family. I'm curious where these three forces are now. Since the demon dwellers have already occupied the Yuanluo Sea, they obviously need some place to cultivate. The Dongfeng family is temporarily settling down in the Black Sea. The Gus went to the Tutor Sea to rely on the Cao family. As for the Three Gods sect, Chu Yangqing hesitated a little bit and then said, the Three Gods sect's disciples don't stay in the Endless Sea. According to our speculation, they are probably staying hidden in the seabed and observing the situation discreetly, waiting for the demon dwellers, the dark dwellers, and us to die, so that they will then come out from the ocean floor. Tell me about the situation this year then. Chu Yangqing slowly nodded and told him all about the situation that she knew. As Shi Yang had been staying in the dark magnetic noxious mist for 1 year, he completely lost connection with the Endless Sea and didn't know anything about its situation. 1 year ago, not long after he had left the Endless Sea, the Heavenly Gate of the Demon Area and the Kiara Sea was fully opened. Meanwhile, the Corpse Soul Bridge had been extended from the Demon Area to the Kiara Sea. The true bodies of the Demon Kings Bo Zun and Kai Yang had appeared in the Kiara Sea. They also brought along thousands of elite warriors. In just a week, the demon dwellers had arrived the Yuanluo Sea and wiped out all the obstacles there. During this period, Ouyang Lu Shuang of the Three Gods sect had revealed her talent. She had used the Silver Moon martial spirit that had been condensed from the 1,000-year moonlight to fight Bo Zun. After half a day of fighting, the Demon King couldn't resist any longer. He was defeated. That was why the Three Gods sect withdrew from the Yuanluo Sea. One part of them had sneaked to the seabed while the other part stayed hidden in the Holy Land. It had been a long time since they showed up from the sea. Even Ouyang Lu Shuang was also defeated. Jiyu Shao and Dongfeng Ju could only avoid the demon dwellers' attack, dividing their forces and moving to the Tutor Sea and the Black Sea. Many civilians became the sacrifices, miserably beheaded by the demon dwellers. Their corpses were everywhere. Cao Qiudao and Yang Yitian had to come out and guard at the Black Sea and the Tutor Sea. They gathered all forces in the Endless Sea to cope with the invasion of the demon dwellers. Ouyang Lu Shuang often appeared during this time. Her fighting ability was gradually increasing, and her power became more and more terrifying. She was finally as powerful as Cao Qiudao and Yang Yitian. In the Tutor Sea, while the demon dwellers were preparing for the invasion, a group of demon dwellers was beheaded mysteriously. After that, the demon dwellers sent Demon Master Ma Chi Jie to investigate. At the area of the Corpse God sect in the Tutor Sea, Ma Chi Jie was severely injured and almost couldn't return alive. Bo Zun was in a rage and departed personally, going to that sea area alone to find the Corpse God sect for retaliation. In the Corpse God sect, the two giant 10,000-year king corpses united, using the essence of the 5 elements of heaven and earth to deal with Bo Zun, making him return without getting anything. Under cover of the 5 elements Skynet, the Corpse God sect was fully enveloped, and even Bo Zun's soul consciousness could hardly pierce through. After this war, the Corpse God sect had attracted the worldwide attention. Although Qing Ming was the cult master of the Corpse God sect, he unexpectedly didn't participate in that earth-shaking war. After this war, the Corpse God sect had some changes. The 2 king corpses got out of Qing Ming's control and became the real master of the sect. The corpse slaves that were initially in confinement suddenly became the pillars of the Corpse God sect, and the original disciples became the servants of the corpse slaves. The 2 king corpses rebelled, rewriting the history of the Corpse God sect. The king corpses and the corpse slaves gathered and became a dominant force, dominating Qing Ming's disciples. The king corpses had a 10,000-year-old intellect and were now in charge of the Corpse God sect, making the sect even stronger. Even Demon King Bo Zun couldn't get any benefits from the unity of the 2 king corpses. This made all warriors of the Endless Sea aware of how terrible the king corpse's power was for the first time. The Xia family had declined. The former master of the Xia family, Xia Jing, who suddenly left his secluded life at the Vault of Heaven Sea area and fought with the Dark Dwellers at the border of the Kiara Sea, slaughtering hundreds of Dark Dwellers of different levels. The 3 Dark Sky Yama kings of the 7-layered underworld fought with Xia Jing, who but couldn't kill him. Xia Jing, who became famous after one battle. He then gathered the remnants of the Shias and rose up in the vault of Heaven's Sea Dream, re-establishing the strength and forces in the heavenly demon mountain range and rehousing the Shia family. After this war, everyone suddenly realized that Xia Jing who had entered the second sky of spirit realm. Moreover, his soul cultivation was extremely profound. Even Yang Yi Tian had to admit that his soul ability was not as good as that of Xia Jing Hu. The Xia family re-embarked on the stage and was even more dazzling than ever. Yang Yi Tian of the Vault of Heaven Sea area had to acknowledge Xia Jing Hu's strength, let him dominate the said sea area and fight with the high-class warriors of the 3 Dark Sky Yama Kings at the Kiara Sea. The 10,000-year king corpses in the Tutor Sea, Ouyang Lu Shuang of the 3 Gods sect, and Xia Jing who made their rebellion all of a sudden. These 4 masters appeared and sabotaged the plan of the demon dwellers and the dark dwellers. Furthermore, Cao Qiu Dao and Yang Yi Tian also contacted and gathered all forces everywhere to resist and suppress the demon dwellers and the dark dwellers. The demon dwellers and the dark dwellers wanted to clear the endless sea in a short time. However, seeing the 4 masters appear intimidatingly, they had to consider carefully and didn't dare to carry out their schemes recklessly. Instead, they gradually invaded and acquired the 3 sea areas. Over the past year, the 2 Demon Kings and 3 Yama Kings had respectively fought with Cao Qiu Dao, Yang Yi Tian, the 10,000-year king corpses, Ouyang Lu Shuang, and Xia Jing Hu, but they couldn't get any benefits from these masters' unity. They had all got injured several times and began to subside. After that, the inferior warriors started to fight with each other. A small war happened every 3 days, and a big war occurred every 7 days. A year later, under the resistance of Cao Qiu Dao and Yang Yi Tian, the demon dwellers and the dark dwellers still couldn't conquer the endless sea. Both sides gradually fell into the war of attrition, where they competed for manpower and resources. Chu Yangqing sat on her chair, took a sip of green tea and then said, "Over the past year, pagans have been fighting against us every single moment. What I just told you are the big events that happened in the past year. Except for these things, other small matters have nothing related to you. As I think you are not interested in them, I won't tell." The 1,000-year king corpses, Ouyang Lu Shuang, Xia Jing Hu, Shi Yang muttered, revealing a strange face and beaming a smile. He suddenly realized that all of those people somehow had a connection with him. If it weren't for his life seal that had activated the 1,000-year king corpse's consciousness, they wouldn't have had the wisdom to betray Qing Ming or appear to resist Demon King Bo Zun and take over the Corpse God sect, making the corpse slaves become masters. It could be said that he alone had led to the transformation of the 1,000-year king corpses. Ouyang Lu Shuang's case was almost the same. That year, if it weren't for him having the star god inheritance that stimulated the transformation of the meteorite, Ouyang Lu Shuang could still have ascetically cultivated inside the meteorite, not being able to wake up that early. Because of his appearance, Ouyang Lu Shuang woke up that fast. She then entered the Endless Sea and became the shining God Realm warrior of the 3 Gods sect. Xia Jing whose case wasn't different. Shi Yang knew the reason that Xia Jing who could regain his normal state that fast was the benefits from the vain spirit pellet of Yi Zhongfeng. Yi Zhongfeng had said that Xia Jing who had arrived the swamp in the dark magnetic noxious mist, and had been trapped for many years. That's why he had gotten 1 remaining drop of the clear God soul. After having absorbed that crystal clear God soul, the reincarnation martial spirit of the Xia family had mutated, leading to his insanity. After having taken the vain spirit pellet, he had gradually recovered and digested the immortal spirit in that crystal clear God soul. This helped him enter the new realm, the second sky of spirit realm, and master the magical martial technique left in the crystal clear God soul. Hence, he was finally strong enough to fight with the dark sky Yama Kings. The king corpses, Ouyang Lu Shuang, and Xia Jing Hu. Shi Yang grinned, his face joyful. Over the past year, although he hadn't stayed in the Endless Sea, he had either intentionally or accidentally contributed to the strength of those 3 masters. They could substitute him to rise and get involved in the distress of the Endless Sea. To a certain extent, he had been quietly affecting the situation of the Endless Sea, even though he hadn't been here. "What are you laughing at?" Chu Yangqing was surprised. "Nothing," Shi Yang shook his head, hesitated for a while and then continued. Do you have any news of the Yang family? Are there any Yangs showing up over the past year? One part of the Yangs should be on the seabed this time. We have received news saying that Yang Mu and his fellows used to appear in Barren City at the bottom of the sea. However, the situation in the Endless Sea is grim, so nobody wants to find them to start more troubles. As far as we can see, Yang Mu and the others should have come out from the chasm battlefield and arrived at Barren City, Chu Yangqing said. The Barren City? Shi Yang looked surprised. Yes. The Barren City in the ocean floor is opened by the sea tribes. Its purpose is for them to exchange some goods with the human race. Although materials in the seabed are rich, some cultivating materials can only be found on land. The sea tribes have opened the Barren City so that the warriors on the sea surface can exchange their cultivating materials for the submarine materials. Did Yang Mu actually appear in the Barren City? Shi Yang muttered while his eyes suddenly lit up. Yama King, Diyu is the realm of the dead or hell in Chinese mythology. The exact number of levels in Diyu and their associated deities differ between Buddhist and Taoist interpretations. Sometimes they say it is divided into 10 courts of hell, each of which is ruled by a judge. Chapter 432, Seabed. Chapter 432, Seabed. Do you want to visit the Barren City at the bottom of the sea? Chu Yangqing frowned and slightly shook her head. The Barren City's very complicated. There are sea tribes, demonic races, human race. That's a multiracial area. Fights happen all the time, and it never seems to be peaceful. That year, when the Yang family was still strong, the sea tribes still had regards for them. But now, since Yang Tian Emperor has been captured and probably will not be able to come out from the confinement, the sea tribes will not have to continue to respect you guys anymore. I think Yang Mu and his group are not happy in Barren City. You can't change anything even if you go down there. Shi Yang contemplated and beamed a faint smile. He didn't care about what she said. You'd better stay away from the Endless Sea. Chu Yangqing's eyes brightened as she said with a sincere tone. You aren't the same as the other Yangs. Even though the forces of the Endless Sea know that Yang Mu and his group are in the Barren City, they will not do anything to them. However, if they know you're there, I'm afraid. What? Shi Yang frowned. What do you mean? Even if Yang Mu and the others are still alive, they are not able to revitalize the Yang family. They can't make the Yang family shine again in the Endless Sea. So, they're not a big threat to the others. Chu Yangqing said with a solemn face. You are different. You have made the leaders of the other forces in the Endless Sea realize that you have endless potential. Your performance even surpasses the Yang Tian Emperor when he was young. If you have more time to cultivate, I believe that one day, you will certainly replace the Yang Tian Emperor, help revitalize the Yang family and firmly stand in the Endless Sea again. Shi Yang grinned and revealed a flattered expression. Thank you, thank you. They will not let you go. Once the news of your presence in the Barren City is spread out, the people of the Endless Sea will find ways to deal with you. You're a big threat to them. Many people are afraid of you, and thus, they will not let you grow and become another Yang Tian Emperor, Chu Yangqing said seriously. How can I not go to the Barren City on the seabed? Shi Yang ignored her advice and asked with a smile. I have to go there. If those people want to do something to me, just let them do what they want. Let's see if I can continue to live well or not. He had arduously been cultivating in the dark magnetic noxious mist for a long time, and had entered the sky realm. Moreover, he had helped the ice-cold flame, the Holy Spirit God, and the earth flame regain their energy. If he could reunite these three living beings together and borrow the mysterious giant sharp sword, he was confident that nobody could harm him unless Cao Qiu Dao and Yang Yitian appeared. As the situation of the Endless Sea was grim right now, he didn't believe that people like Cao Qiu Dao and Yang Yitian would go all the way to the Barren City to kill him. At most, those people like Ji Yu Shao or Yu Qin would probably come. But of course, he was not scared of them. Do you really want to go? Chu Yangqing's face became cold as she was a little angry because of his stubbornness. Even if you go there, what will change? The situation of the Endless Sea is very complicated right now, and the Yang family cannot help you with anything. So, why do you want to go there? With your potential, after 10 years, you will definitely set foot on the summit. By that time, when you come back to the endless sea, who can deal with you? I have made up my mind. Shi Yang smiled while staring at her. You seem to care about me a lot, eh? Chu Yangqing's face stiffened. She growled, I just don't want to see you die early. If you are alive, perhaps you can do something for the endless sea in the future. Maybe like Ouyang Lu Shuang and Xia Jing who, you can intimidate demon kings and the Yamas and prevent the endless sea from falling into the pagans' hands. I don't care what the endless sea will become, Shi Yang said with a cold voice. Tell me, how can I go to the barren city? Chu Yangqing pondered a little bit, gritted her teeth, and didn't look at him as she seemed to be in a rage. Shi Yang was bewildered. A woman like you really has feelings for me? Shi Yang was confused. Chu Yangqing was very angry and finally said, the Yang family has a transfer formation that connects with the barren city. It's on the Immortal Island. Currently, the Immortal Island has become the operating house of the three great Yamas. If you go there, you will die. Actually, you can dive into the sea. The barren city's right underneath the Kiara Sea. You just need to go to the ocean floor to find it. If you find it, it means you have to die. I don't want to give you any more advice. Shi Yang was not angry, but smiled instead. That's good. I didn't expect to see you when I come here. Well, it seems that you're still very kind. If I destroy the Heaven Lake Divine Land one day, I will spare your life. Arrogant. Ha ha ha, I'm always arrogant. Goodbye, beautiful lady. Either reporting or not reporting my presence here is up to you. I'm not afraid of the Heaven Lake Divine Land people sending someone to kill me. I'm not that bored. See you later then. Shi Yang didn't linger. He burst into laughter and then suddenly reached out to touch her face. He even gave a compliment before leaving. Getting out of the three-story house, Shi Yang turned into a bunch of light, flying away. Chu Yangqing sat motionlessly on the spot. Her beautiful eyes glinted with a confused beam of light, and her face gradually reddened. Half a day later, she shook her head while her hand caressing the cheek that Shi Yang had touched. She whispered, "Live well. I still haven't settled things with you. Such an annoying guy." After leaving the Black Sea, Shi Yang went to the Kiara Sea alone. When he arrived at the border of the Kiara Sea, he saw the dark yin aura hovering in the sky, and his face became gloomy. After he had looked for a moment, his body suddenly shone as he used the dark light shield to cover his entire body. He then sneaked into the sea. The sea water was incredibly blue. Some fish swam back and forth from time to time, and the seaweed was shining green. The submarine world was magnificently colorful and mesmerizing. While he was diving all the way down, the water pressure continued to increase, pressing on the dark light shield. The dark light shield flashed with a dark light and wasn't deformed by the water pressure yet. Many flows of profound chi slowly poured into the dark light shield's halo. The halo of the dark light shield gradually spread out, allowing him to move his limbs and use his various forces. Although he was in the sea, the stars in the sky could still penetrate his body. His body was enveloped by the dark light shield, but was still able to feel the star power's injection. Shi Yang closed his eyes, immersing his mind in the star martial spirit. After his mind had immersed in it, it was like he had just entered the endless sea of stars and slowly ran in the star domain. There seemed to be numerous stars around, that were twinkling and releasing the immortal star power. He seemed to turn into a minute dot of starlight that was moving in the star domain. When he realized the mystery of the star's sea, he immediately forgot his body and threw himself into them completely. Comprehending the star martial spirit was a slow process, and he should keep trying his best to be persistent in cultivating, so that he could grasp the insight of the realm. At the sky realm, he had to comprehend the true meaning of heaven and earth to make his realm sublimate and enter the new level. In the dark magnetic noxious mist, he had soon known that the sky realm warriors were very different from the nirvana realm warriors. It was all because of the understanding and mastering the intent domain. With the three martial spirits, the immortal martial spirit, the petrifaction martial spirit, and the star martial spirit, as long as he could get the truth from one of these three, his spirit could sublimate, facilitating him to take another step to the new level. Understanding this, he considered these three martial spirits' intent domains his next main goal. Through what Cai Yi and others had told him, he knew that because his martial spirits didn't go through an arduous cultivation, it was more difficult for him to comprehend the true meaning of the intent domain than ordinary people. That was why he didn't dare to be lazy. Whenever he had some free time, he would immediately comprehend the mystery of the intent domain. Since he came back from the dark magnetic noxious mist, he had continued to study the immortal martial spirit more, often using a sharp instrument to cut his fingers, using his mind to recover his body through the comprehension of the immortal martial spirit and understanding its mystery. However, because his knowledge of the immortal martial spirit was not too deep, he didn't comprehend much, and it seemed to be difficult to grasp the key factors. He didn't know what the effect of the immortal blood was after all. This time, when he came back to the Endless Sea to find the predecessors of the Yang family, his main purpose was to ask for the true mystery of the immortal martial spirit. Ever since he had come back to the Endless Sea, Yang Tian Emperor seemed to have been concerned about him and also given him a lot of help. In this difficult occasion, he felt that he should be together with the Yangs, contributing his small part to help the family. Moreover, he had admired Yang Tian Emperor for a long time, but had never seen him with his own eyes before, which was a regret. He always felt that he needed to meet Yang Tian Emperor once to ask him about the effect of the immortal blood. Immersing in the comprehension of the immortal martial spirit and the dark light shield, he didn't know how much time had passed and continued sinking into the sea slowly. Shi Yang suddenly woke up. Within the dark light shield, he opened his eyes and frowned. He looked ahead, revealing a surprised face. A group of strange raced beings with humans-like upper bodies and snake tails was holding knives and forks, going back and forth on patrol to guard the sea ahead. They were approaching him. A woman was taking the lead. Her upper body was moving gracefully, exposing mesmerizingly slender curves, emerald green eyes, and a delicate face. Her lower body was a snake tail with bluish-gray circular patterns. She was swaying her tail from side to side with a fast speed, which made her look like a bunch of green lights moving in the sea. The 5 alien racemen with snake bodies behind her were all warriors who knew how to use heaven and earth energy. They all had the cultivation base of the earth realm, holding forks and knives and revealing ruthless eyes. The Naga tribe. Chapter 433, The Naga tribe. Chapter 433, The Naga tribe. Just with a quick look, Shi Yang immediately recognized the identity of these pagans. The Naga tribe was one of the sea tribes. They had a human torso and a snake body, living in the seabed all year round. But they also visited the land from time to time. The Naga tribe liked to cultivate in cold, miasmal places. They never had a good feeling for the human race. When they met a human on the ocean floor, they always provoked and attacked first. As far as he had known, the Naga tribe seemed to have a good relationship with the Yang family. The current matriarch of the Naga tribe was a woman called Li Shuo, who seemed to have an equivocal relationship with Yang Tian Emperor. That year, when Yang Tian Emperor was still young, he had made a tour around the seabed and saved Li Shuo's life. The fact that the Yang family could firmly set their feet in the barren city had something related to the Naga tribe. Even the transfer formation which connected the Yang family and the barren city had been built with the strong support of the Naga tribe. Members of the Naga tribe were united and extremely hostile. As long as someone offended them, they would inevitably remember in their hearts and always think about revenge. Sea tribes included many races, and the Naga tribe was a powerful one among them. Their strength was intimidating, and they didn't lack high-class warriors. The matriarch of the Naga tribe, Li Shuo, seemed to be a spirit realm warrior with exceptional powers. All Naga tribe members respected her. A series of information related to the Naga tribe continuously crossed his mind. He then instantly set up a plan for dealing with them. That graceful woman led a line of 6 Nagas. They all were at the third sky of Nirvana realm, holding long, silver spears with blue serpentine patterns, which had strange green fluctuations stirring up from time to time. They were like a stream flowing next to the spears and producing wonderful sounds. The Nagas slowly approached with caution. The woman taking the lead suddenly raised the long silver spear in her hand when she was 10 meters away from Shi Yang. The 5 Noggers, who were at the Earth realm, suddenly all stopped. Human, did you see a silver-horned electric eel? The Nogger tribe woman coldly looked at him, slightly raised the corner of her cherry mouth and spat out sound waves. Silver-horned electric eel? Shi Yang was surprised, shaking his head, never met before. Silver-horned electric eels were level 6 demonic beast in the sea. They could release a strong electric current, acting and moving quickly in the seabed, which made them harder to be captured and killed. Silver-horned electric eels also had a demon crystal, a useful cultivating material in refining weapons. In Barren City, the horn of a silver-horned electric eel was quite precious. You didn't see it? The Nogger tribe woman suspiciously looked at him with cold eyes and grunted, "It's clear that the silver-horned electric eel came towards your direction. How come you didn't see it? Or you did see it but don't want to tell me?" The Nogger tribe members were very suspicious and lacked trust in the human race, as they always believed that human race was cunning and evil. It was only because Yang Tian Emperor had saved Li Shuo, the current matriarch of the Nogger tribe, that the Yang family could have a good relationship with the Noggers. "I didn't see it." Shi Yang smiled and said with a friendly attitude, "If I saw it, I would tell you. I don't need to deceive you. Fei Ya, this brat isn't serious. He's obviously not a good human. He must have seen that silver-horned electric eel but doesn't want to tell us." A feeble, thin, and young Nogger tribe man that looked like a bamboo stick with a yellow face grunted and exposed his unfriendly attitude. The woman who led those Noggers also coldly looked at Shi Yang while her eyes slightly lit up, as she seemed to be guessing his true realm. Since Shi Yang had come down here, he always hid his real strength and made himself look only at the third sky of Earth realm. When those Noggers realized that his realm was only at the Earth realm, they looked down on him as they thought that with their cultivation base, they could easily capture or chop him off. "If you don't tell the truth, don't blame us for having no mercy." Fei Ya's face became cold. While talking, she raised her hand, and her long silver spear suddenly emitted a bunch of cold lights. As soon as those lights burst out, the seawater instantly splashed everywhere with an extraordinary power. Shi Yang calmly looked at her, didn't show any fear and smiled. "I am one of the Yangs." "The Yangs?" Fei Ya's face loosened a little bit. She said, "How do you prove it?" Shi Yang didn't say anything, stretched out his hand but didn't perform the petrifaction martial spirit. Instead, he hauled out a small sword and cut his finger. The immortal martial spirit then started to exert its effect. Blood stopped bleeding from that cut. Under the magical effect of the immortal martial spirit, the wound gradually healed and disappeared without a trace. Immortal martial spirit? The 6 Noggers all exclaimed simultaneously. Fei Ya hesitated a little bit before saying, "You are the Yang family's descendant." Shi Yang nodded. "What's your name?" "Shi Yang." "Shi Yang." Fei Ya revealed a suspicious face, turned around looking at the other 5 behind her and then asked, "Have you ever heard whether the Yang family has someone with this name?" Those 5 people shook their heads. "If you are one of the Yangs, why is your surname Shi?" Fei Ya grunted and didn't seem to believe him. "I have the immortal martial spirit. Do I need to prove anything else?" Shi Yang froze for a moment and couldn't help but feel troubled. He shook his head and said, "Never mind. It's up to you if you want to believe it or not. I'm too lazy to talk much. I just want to know the exact direction of Barren City. Can you tell me?" He just knew that Barren City was right underneath the Kiara Sea, which was vast. Thus, without the exact direction, it was not easy to find the city. From the seabed, it was impossible to see the sun and stars, and hence, it was hard to identify the direction. If he continued to look around, he would waste a lot of his star power. Of course, that was not the result that he wanted to see. "What are you going to the Barren City for?" Fei Ya asked. "I have something to do there." Shi Yang beamed a faint smile. "Could you tell me the location of the Barren City?" "It's very far from here." Fei Ya thought for a while. "The Yangs are now staying in the center of Barren City. They aren't in good condition. So, even if you go there, you will not have any support. I have heard that the Demon King trapped Yang Tian Emperor, and the Kiara Sea is also occupied by the Dark Dwellers. The Yang family has been declining, their business is worse than ever. Their role to the sea tribes is less important, and thus, they are not respected as much as before. Shi Yang was very clear about this. Until now, the Yang family had been gathered in the Kiara Sea and had transported cultivating materials from the land to Barren City through the transfer formation. They exchanged those cultivation materials that couldn't be found on the seabed for precious spiritual jade stones of the sea tribes. That made both parties happy. The reason why the Yang family could hold power in the Endless Sea was that they could get a significant amount of cultivation materials from the fourth demon area that the Endless Sea didn't have. On the other hand, they also relied on the trade with the sea tribes, making a lucrative profit from the sea tribes' unique materials. The sea tribes, through the Yangs, also got precious cultivation materials that had never appeared in the seabed. Because of this reason, the Yang family's position was secure in Barren City. However, it was now different from the past. The Yang family had been evacuated from the Kiara Sea to Barren City, without bringing a lot of materials. Hence, it was difficult for the sea tribes to continue getting the cultivating resources on the sea surface through the Yang family. Moreover, the news that Yang Tian Emperor was being confined by the Demon King was spread out in Barren City, which made the Yang family's position in Barren City gradually change. It looked like because Yang Tian Emperor was captured, the attitude of the Naga tribe towards the Yang family also changed subtly. Shi Yang pondered on the Naga tribe's attitude. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Just when he was tired of Fei Ya and the others, an intense electric current suddenly came from behind him. Two 10 meters tall silver-horned electric eels stormed out from the seawater. These two silver-horned electric eels had a beautiful halo radiating from the horn on their heads, while the dazzling lightning burst out towards Shi Yang. How come there are two of them? The thin, feeble Naga, who didn't have a good attitude towards Shi Yang earlier, couldn't help but squeal as soon as he saw the two silver-horned electric eels appear. His cry was ear-splitting, extremely unpleasant to ears, like the sound of a saber hacking on a stone. Shi Yang felt irritated on hearing it. He couldn't help cover his ears, as he was repugnant to the Naga's sharp sound. As for the two level 6 sea beasts, he didn't mind of them. With his current realm, these kind of level 6 beasts were nothing to him. The Naga tribe people chased after the two silver-horned electric eels. If it were only one of them, with Fei Ya's Nirvana realm, together with the other 5 who were at the third sky of Earth realm, dealing with one silver-horned electric eel was not very difficult. But if there were 2 of them, the situation was completely different. Fei Ya could only cope with one silver-horned electric eel. Meanwhile, even if the other 5 had united, they would not be able to kill one silver-horned electric eel. Once the two silver-horned electric eels joined each other and took on Fei Ya as their target, this group of Nagas would not be able to resist. Shi Yang didn't care about it. Seeing the two silver-horned electric eels releasing the electric currents and quickly rushing towards him, he frowned slightly and actively avoided them. As soon as his figure moved, he was like lightning, flying 100 meters away from Fei Ya and the others. Among the two silver-horned electric eels, one had bloodstains on its body. It seemed to have been injured from the attack of Fei Ya's group. After calling for help from the other, it bluntly stared at Fei Ya's group. They ignored Shi Yang, crossing him to rush to Fei Ya and the others. Lightning weaved. The electric net shrouded the 6 of them, and they quickly fell into a difficult situation. Shi Yang stood aside with an indifferent face. He didn't say a word, looking at those 6 Nagas who were being chased by the silver-horned electric eels, without any intention of intervention. Fei Ya could deal with one silver-horned electric eel only. She flung the spear on her hand. Silver lights scattered everywhere, stabbing the silver-horned electric eel mercilessly. As the other 5 Nagas were struck by the electric currents from the other silver-horned electric eel, they constantly screamed ear-splittingly. Shi Yang's ears were discomfited. He was considering if he should leave this place or not. Help us. We can take you to Barren City later. Fei Ya suddenly shouted. Her face looked worried, and it didn't have the previous trace of arrogance anymore. Shi Yang smiled, shaking his head. Chapter 434. I like a woman who smiles at me. Chapter 434. I like a woman who smiles at me. Fei Ya's vision was extraordinary. Just seeing Shi Yang move 100 meters in an instant, she immediately realized his real realm. He just didn't show his strength yet. She was aware that when Shi Yang met them, he didn't show any fear, which meant he was not afraid of them. She also knew that her race's reputation was not good. As long as ordinary human warriors met them, they all stayed away and didn't dare to be near them. When Shi Yang saw them, he didn't avoid them, but kept his calm face while talking to them naturally. He was not afraid of them at all. Because of this discovery, she didn't dare to act rashly towards Shi Yang. When the silver-horned electric eels appeared, Shi Yang instantly teleported 100 meters away, which made her more confident that Shi Yang's cultivation base was exceptional. That was why she decided to call for his help. However, Shi Yang refused. The Naga tribe was famous for remembering hatred as well as gratitude. As long as someone did the Naga's favor, they would definitely repay that person. Having a good relationship with the Naga tribe was always a dream of human warriors. Fei Ya proactively threw an olive branch to him. With her understanding of human warriors, she felt that Shi Yang would immediately agree to help her kill the silver-horned electric eels without any hesitation so that they would repay his help. However, Shi Yang shook his head, refusing the request without any hesitation. It was hard for Fei Ya to accept. "You!" Fei Ya shouted, revealing a darkened face, and quickly flung the silver spear that instantly left some traces on the silver-horned electric eel body. Seemed like she did that to vent out her anger. Her realm was out of the ordinary, and thus, it was not a problem in dealing with the silver-horned electric eels. The 5 Nagas were different. Under the silver-horned electric eels' attack, they were struggling to resist. A bunch of lightning interweaved quickly, forming a vast electric net that shrouded those 5 guys. With the Earth realm, when the spears in their hands were lifted up, the lightning instantly struck them, and they were agitated immediately, showing a painful expression. As the silver-horned electric eel was a level 6 beast with mighty strength, it didn't get injured yet. The lightning that it released was even sharper than that of the other silver-horned electric eel. Under the attack of that silver-horned electric eel's lightning, the 5 Nagas gradually couldn't resist it anymore. One of them was charred by the lightning. His movement was getting slower, and thus, he would probably be killed first. "What do you want?" Fei Ya was worried at heart, as she didn't know what Shi Yang really wanted. "As long as you help us deal with the silver-horned electric eels, I will satisfy your requirements." Humans were shameless. They looted when the house was burned, and that was what they were good at in her mind. Fei Ya secretly gritted her teeth. Flames of anger burned up in her heart as she regretted that she couldn't handle him first. "What do I want?" From 100 meters away, Shi Yang hesitated a little bit and then said with a smile, "If your attitudes were better earlier, with the relationship between the Yang family and the Naga tribe, I would have helped you deal with these 2 silver-horned electric eels." After pausing for a moment, Shi Yang looked around and continued, "Well, I'm not feeling good right now. I don't need anything from you, I just don't want to help. I'm dissatisfied with your attitude. Although the Yang family is now in difficulty, their future will still be glorious in the endless sea. The Naga tribe has such a short vision. You guys don't want to extend the relation with the Yang family. Well then, I will just step aside watching the scene." Fei Ya was angry to the point that she wanted to vomit blood. When Shi Yang dared to speak like that, he obviously had the confidence to deal with the silver-horned electric eels. He apparently had the ability but didn't want to take any action. Instead, he just stood aside and taunted her, which made her angry to death. Under the attack of 1 silver-horned electric eel, the 5 male Nagas couldn't resist anymore. One of them had his tail electrocuted and twisted. He shook constantly, all his movements were powerless. If this situation kept going this way, he would soon be killed. "What do you want me to do to satisfy you?" Fei Ya gritted her teeth with hatred in her heart, but had to restrain her feeling. She looked at Shi Yang and begged him. "I don't know." Shi Yang laughed without any concern and intention of rescuing them. "I'm sorry. We should not have treated you like that earlier. I promise that after this, I will treat you as a friend of the Naga tribe and will not let anything like that happen again. Seeing her fellows falling into a difficult situation, Fei Ya couldn't help but bow her head and beg him. Shi Yang dragged a smile out of his mouth, revealing a happy face. Can you be more sincere and less deceitful? Fei Ya was enraged but didn't dare to show it out. Instead, she tried to restrain her anger and showed him a bright face. Help us a little bit, I beg you. I promise I will repay it. Thank you in advance. That's right. Shi Yang burst into laughter with a refreshing look and then spoke up loudly. I like a woman who smiles at me. I don't like the one who is cold and arrogant. Ha ha ha, if you treated me well earlier, we would not have had this misunderstanding, and you would not be this awkward. All women are the same. If they're not in difficulty, they will not stop with that CR*PPY attitude. After talking, he slowly moved to the 5 Naga guys. They were in a dangerous situation, and if Shi Yang delayed taking action, they would probably have to suffer a lot. One of the 5 guys was electrocuted. His body shriveled without any energy and floated up on the sea. The silver-horned electric eel suddenly stormed forwards, opening its mouth, which was like a blood basin. It seemed to about to swallow that Naga. At that moment, Shi Yang appeared in front of the silver-horned electric eel instantly. He clasped his hands, and his palms were filled with splendid lights. A bunch of starlights suddenly flew out, and under his handprint, the starlight gradually condensed into a northern dipper arrow. A bunch of bright stars rode on the northern dipper arrow while the starlight flashed dazzlingly and surged strongly. Swoosh! The northern dipper arrow shot out. The sharp northern dipper arrow flew out, dragging along blazing lights. Those 7 stars also turned into a stream of lights, attaching to the northern dipper arrow to enhance the power of the northern dipper arrow. Such extremely sharp arrow like that had never appeared before. It could even break the stones and pierce the sea. Boom! The northern dipper arrow shot out towards the silver-horned electric eel. A bunch of electric lights instantly went into the silver-horned electric eel's head. The silver-horned electric eel had no reaction, its 10-meter-tall body sank into the sea. Right after that, many dots of starlight blinked from its body. The starlight slowly drilled out like sharp sabers, and the silver-horned electric eel's body suddenly twinkled with numerous stars. The starlight slowly moved according to the star trajectory. The trajectory of the northern dipper appeared. Dazzling starlight flashed, and the silver-horned electric eel's body suddenly split up, with blood splashing everywhere. When the northern dipper arrow pierced into the silver-horned electric eel, the star power decomposed the beast's body. A kind of immortal star intent domain attached to the top of that northern dipper arrow continued to condense after the silver-horned electric eel's body had been decomposed. Each dot of starlight that flew out from that silver-horned electric eel's body had condensed in the seawater once again. Another northern dipper arrow emerged. The star power gathered and didn't scatter, and the intent domain was as sharp as before. The new northern dipper arrow was formed and shot out again. At this time, this northern dipper arrow flew towards the other silver-horned electric eel. Nothing was out of expectation. The silver-horned electric eel didn't have enough time to hide. The northern dipper arrow hit it right in the middle of its head. After the arrow went into the beast's head, the star power immediately burst out and killed this silver-horned electric eel. In only 5 seconds, the 2 silver-horned electric eels, the 2 level 6 beasts, were struck to dead by Shi Yang's northern dipper arrow that contained the star intent domain. They both were split into blood clots. Fei Ya and the other 5 male Nagas were all stunned, while their eyes were flooded with fear. If you had a better attitude, you would not have wasted too much time like this. Shi Yang beamed a faint smile and said calmly, "They're just 2 silver-horned electric eels. I can kill them easily." Fei Ya wanted to question Shi Yang, but she now felt that her throat was dry and choked. She finally gave up that intent and just silently looked at him, hesitated for a while before asking, "What is your real realm?" "Sky realm." Fei Ya's face changed in fear. The 5 Naga guys also looked frightened. They subconsciously held the weapons tightly in their hands and seemed very cautious. "Well, you guys want to take action?" Shi Yang shook his head and said bluntly. I'm afraid that the 6 of you are not enough to deal with me. Although there are a lot of high-class warriors in the Naga tribe, those whose realm is below the Sky Realm should not act rashly. Or else, they will have to suffer a great loss. As I've said, you are a friend of the Naga tribe. Fei Ya said with a serious face. We'll treat you as a friend and will be honest with you. We will not harm our friend. The other 5 Naga guys nodded continually and looked much more serious than before. Shi Yang smiled and nodded with them. You all want to get the silver horns and demon crystals. They're all floating on the sea now. So why are still staying dumbstruck here? Go get em. You have killed these 2 silver-horned electric eels. So, the silver horns and the demon crystals belong to you, Fei Ya said. I don't need them. Shi Yang shook his head and waved his hand. You guys just go and take em. Otherwise, when they all go far away, it's more troublesome to find them. The eyes of the 6 of them lit up. Really? Fei Ya asked. Shi Yang smiled and nodded. Fei Ya hesitated for a moment and then revealed a sincere smile. You are actually not a B*****. Chapter 435, Changes of Temperature in Human Emotions. Chapter 435, Changes of Temperature in Human Emotions. After getting Shi Yang's permission, the eyes of the 6 Naga tribe people couldn't help but light up. Fei Ya looked at him with a slight smile. Silver-horned electric eels were level 6 beasts, so its silver horn and demon crystals were both valuable. These 6 Nagas had consumed a lot of their strength to kill the silver-horned electric eels to collect the silver horns and demon crystals. The value of the 2 silver horns and demon crystals was out of their expectation. They thought that when Shi Yang killed the silver-horned electric eels, he would take these valuable cultivating materials for his own. They had never expected that Shi Yang didn't really care about them. If you guys want to get those silver horns and demon crystals, you'd better hurry. Otherwise, when they sink into the sea, you will have to spend a lot of energy to find them. Shi Yang looked around and didn't seem to have greed for the silver horns and demon crystals. The 6 Nagas stared at Shi Yang for a while, and after being sure that Shi Yang didn't seem to care about those things, they excitedly went to get them. Not long after that, these 6 Nagas had the 2 silver horns and 2 demon crystals in their hands. They looked at Shi Yang with much friendlier attitude. He isn't a bad guy. He doesn't take our things. Fei Ya thought for a while and said, well, anyway, we have to go to Barren City. We will take you there. Is it okay? Shi Yang smiled and nodded. That's good. Fei Ya carefully stashed away the silver horns and demon crystals while secretly thinking what price she should offer for these silver horns and demon crystals when they arrive at Barren City. Making a proper calculation, Fei Ya was in a good mood. She led the way and signaled Shi Yang to keep up. Barren City was on the seabed underneath Kiara Sea. Human warriors who didn't know its location would need at least half a month to find it. As the Naga tribe stayed in the seabed all year round, they obviously knew the location of Barren City. With these 6 Naga tribe people leading the way, Shi Yang was happy. The 6 of them were leading in front, and Shi Yang was following them leisurely. After knowing Shi Yang's terrible strength, those 6 Nagas treated him more respectfully, and no longer showed their arrogance. No matter where it was, everyone respected the Sky Realm warriors. In the sea tribes, they were even considered masters. Even more important was Shi Yang's young age. Are you really one of the Yangs? Fei Ya was very curious. She suddenly slowed down, turned her head around while glancing at Shi Yang and said with suspicion, seems like none of the Yang family's masters have the surname Shi. We know the 3 great Azura kings with the Sky Realm. You are still very young, so you cannot be one of them. You said that you are the Yang family's descendant. So why haven't we heard of your name? Shi Yang smiled and casually explained, I came to the Endless Sea not long ago. I had lived in the other area before, so it's understandable that you have not heard of my name. If I can see the Yang family people in Barren City, they will prove it to you. Fei Ya's complexion looked weird. She wanted to say something but just stopped. Shi Yang suddenly asked, did Yang Mu and his fellows encounter any trouble in Barren City? Please tell me if you can. Fei Ya didn't reply right away but frowned and contemplated. After a long while, She gently nodded and said, "This time, the Yangs are really not good." What happened? Since the information about young Tian Emperor being confined was spread out from the Endless Sea, many tribes of the Sea tribes in Barren City, who used to have a good relationship with the Yangs, now no longer have a friendly attitude towards them. After pausing for a while, Fei Ya continued, including the Naga tribe. Shi Yang was startled a little bit and then nodded. The Kiara Sea is now occupied, and until now, the Yang family has been transporting the inland materials to Barren City in the seabed through the transfer formation in the Kiara Sea. But now, since the Yang family has declined, apparently, they will no longer have a lot of materials to deliver to the seabed. I can imagine that point. Fei Ya dragged a smile out of her mouth, contemplated for a while and continued. Not only the sea tribes that live in Barren City. In fact, there are many human warriors as well. Many of them committed crimes in the Endless Sea and offended big forces everywhere. Thus, they don't dare to stay in the Endless Sea and chose to go to Barren City. Oh! In Barren City, there are a lot of fierce warriors who set their own camps, occupying one area. That year, when the Yang family was still strong, those people always respected and treated the Yangs well. Previously, the Yang family maintained the order of Barren City. Fei Ya said with a serious face. Barren City is very suitable for human life. Many Sea Tribes members can also temporarily stay in there. The initial purpose of building Barren City was for the human race. That place has a humid atmosphere, and it has water as a defensive barrier outside. The human warriors stay there to do business with the Sea Tribes. On the opposite, the Sea Tribes members who exchange cultivating materials do not stay in Barren City. Most of us cannot leave sea for a long time. Although Barren City is wet and humid, and we can stay there temporarily, we can't spend too much time hanging in there. Most of our Sea Tribes members stay on the outskirts of Barren City. Shi Yang didn't know much about Barren City. Now, when Fei Ya told him in detail about it, he really focused and listened carefully. The Yang family maintained laws in Barren City before. Most of the humans in Barren City are from the Endless Sea and are not really the good ones. After coming to the city, they were no better and often got involved in many fights there. The Yangs formally protected Barren City, maintaining the order of the city, terrifying and preventing those warriors from acting rashly. However, now, it's not the same. After the Yang family's crisis, small forces that relied on the Yang family get more involved in battles, making Barren City mixed up. The Yang family is no longer able to manage them, so they can only ignore them. Sea Tribes members actually don't care about human race's involvement in those battles. As long as they can give us enough cultivating materials, it's good enough, and we don't need to care about their matters. As the Yang family loses control, Barren City becomes more chaotic, and many fights continuously take place there. Fei Ya frowned, as she didn't seem to be happy with the current situation of Barren City either. How about the Yangs? What do you mean by saying the Yang family is not in a good condition? Shi Yang asked. The Yang family seems to stash a lot of cultivating materials in Barren City. I am not sure if it's true. Fei Ya did not answer but asked him back. Shi Yang was stunned, contemplated for a while, and then nodded and said with a gloomy face. Maybe it's true. That year, when the Yang family moved out from the Immortal Island in the Kiara Sea, they transported a lot of materials to the Fourth Demon area. There were also some materials that were delivered to this barren city at the bottom of the sea. Many years after the Yang family's accumulation, even if a tiny part of the materials flowed to Barren City, for the ordinary people, the wealth was already hard to imagine. A part of the warriors there should be aware of the news. They continually acted recklessly, provoking the dominant position of the Yang family, probably to test the family's response. Fei Ya looked at him carefully. From a change in his eyes, she knew that he should understand the point. She then nodded and said, "What you think is right. Many warriors in Barren City are greedy for the cultivating materials that the Yang family transferred there. Those warriors continue to provoke the Yang's position to test their reaction, to see if the Yangs are still able to suppress them or not. However, as the Yang family has no masters who came to Barren City, they can only ignore the provocation. After pausing for a moment, Fei Ya continued, hence, those warriors consider the Yang family as nothing, and they are getting more bold and presumptuous. Recently, we have received the news that these people seem to have the plan to take action soon, looting the cultivating materials of the Yang family. That's why I said that the Yang family isn't in a good situation. The Yang family and the Sea tribes are close. Do the Sea tribes have the ability to stop this matter? Shi Yang pondered and coldly looked at Fei Ya with his sharp eyes. Fei Ya nodded without hiding her thought. Yes. If the Sea tribes come forward to stop it, those people will not dare to act rashly. You guys just want to wait and see. Shi Yang grunted and said bluntly, if I am not wrong, many people in the Sea tribes are also interested in the Yang family's materials, right? Perhaps, those daring people also get a part of the support from the Sea tribes. Fei Ya's face slightly changed. She didn't deny it, nodded and said, yes. How about the attitude of the Naga tribe? Listening to Shi Yang's question, the faces of the other 5 Nagas immediately changed. They looked uneasy. Our matriarch wanted to protect the Yang family. However, the other races of the Sea tribes came and secretly talked about the future of the Sea tribes to persuade our matriarch. For the time being, our matriarch does not either accept or refuse, not putting her hands to help those who go against the Yang family. Fei Ya hesitated for a while, sighed and said, if Yang Tian Emperor still protected the Kiara Sea, I think that many tribes of the Sea tribes definitely would not do that. However, since Yang Tian Emperor's situation is unknown, and the Yang family is no longer able to keep the Kiara Sea, the Yang family has lost their value for the Sea tribes, and protecting them seems to be unnecessary. Hence, many people of the Sea tribes have given up on the Yang family, as they assumed that it will be better for the future of Barren City. Shi Yang coldly sneered, as he wore a gloomy visage. Chapter 436, A Turn for the Better? Shi Yang. Chapter 436, A Turn for the Better? Shi Yang. Frankly speaking, it was all because of the word benefit. When the Yang family was still strong, they could transport a significant amount of inland cultivating materials, so all the Sea tribes got benefits. For this reason, even if it were in the barren city at the bottom of the Sea tribes determined to protect the Yang family, making the Yang family become the real leader of the city. Since the Yang family had declined, they could no longer provide any support for the Sea tribes. Obviously, the Sea tribes wouldn't continue to protect the Yang family. Not only that, because the Sea tribes knew that the Yang family had transferred a large quantity of cultivating materials to Barren City, they even got greedy for them. So, the warriors in Barren City either secretly encouraged or supported human warriors who had evil intentions towards the Yangs. Shi Yang was enlightened. His mind was clear about that matter. How many clans of the Sea tribes no longer trust the Yang family? And, how many clans are neutral? How many still want to get the Yang family's materials? After contemplating for a while, Shi Yang suddenly asked. Fei Ya beamed a faint smile and shook her head. This depends on what you observe by yourself. I am a member of the Sea tribe anyway, so I cannot help you. I can only say that the Snakeman clan do not fish in troubled water. Our matriarch even wanted to stop other warriors, but we are outnumbered, and thus can only be neutral, not taking any sides. It's not bad when you remain neutral. Shi Yang nodded, but his attitude couldn't be said to be friendly. It seems that no matter where it is, there are always some bad people with a short vision. I come to Barren City this time to help the Yang family to re-establish the order of Barren City, making some people more obedient. The 6 Snakeman clan people were stunned for a moment. They looked at him strangely as they didn't seem to be very optimistic about him. Although you have a Sky Realm cultivation base, it doesn't seem to be realistic if you alone want to revitalize the Yang family's glory. Wait and see. Shi Yang coldly said with an arrogant voice. Fei Ya and the other 5 seemed to restrain their feelings, revealing ridiculing eyes. Apparently, they didn't think that Shi Yang could have that ability. Shi Yang didn't talk much, furrowed his brows and kept silent. His eyes flashed up with cold lights, while his face cracked a brutal smile. In Barren City at the bottom of the sea. That was a city with surrounding barriers that prevented water from flooding in. Also, it was filled with a heavy humidity. A large number of human warriors stayed in the city. This city had different business alliances and was divided into 5 areas: the east, the south, the west, the north, and the central. In Barren City, the buildings were made of hard stones and some colorful corals, scattering mesmerizing lights and looking extremely luxurious. The barriers above Barren City shined with lights year-round, making the city always bright even without the sun, moon, and stars. In each of the 5 business areas, there were a large number of human warriors. Big shops, streets with a variety of stalls that sold colorful cultivating materials, jade stones, spiritual pellets, ancient books, secret treasures, everything one could look for was available. Many Sea Tribe people stayed in Barren City as well. They had a lot of cultivating materials found on the seabed, which they either brought to Barren City to sell or exchange them with human warriors for other highly valuable materials. This was a huge multiracial trading place. In the past, the Young family had maintained the order in these old areas in the city. Human warriors who came to Barren City to sell their materials needed to have the Young family's permission to get in, and also had to pay a certain fee on time. The Sea Tribe members, on the other hand, were not subjected to this restriction. Any tribe of the Sea Tribes could freely travel in Barren City and didn't have to pay the fee to the Young family. In this city, the Yangs had a big complex of buildings made of shining stones and colorful corals. They were not only rigid, but also extraordinarily luxurious. This showed how powerful the Yangs were in Barren City. Many businesses were originally set up in the complex of the Young family, including for a variety of cultivating materials that could not be found on the seabed. That was the place for different Sea Tribes members to come and find valuable materials for themselves. Big businesses all happened in the place. If Sea Tribe warriors wanted some precious cultivating materials, as long as they paid enough deposits, the Young family would search for them on the land. In return, they also obtained other equivalent cultivating resources from the Sea Tribes. Through this kind of business, the Young family got many rare treasures of the seabed. Once these treasures were transported to the Kiara Sea, they would be distributed through the Young family's channel and sold to the Cow family, the Martial Spirit Palace, and the Evil Wonderland. In the end, the Yangs got huge profits from those business affairs. The fact that the Young family could become the most prominent force in the Endless Sea and have good businesses in Barren City was substantially associated with the Sea Tribe's trust for the Yangs. They made the Young family become their connection with the Endless Sea. Because of that, they maintained a good relationship with the Young family, as well as supported the Young family's dominating status in Barren City, accepting their management towards human warriors. This situation had continued and only changed after the Young Tian Emperor was imprisoned. In the center of Barren City, in the Young family's complex, a beautiful building made of coral that used to be a busy trading market was now empty. None of the Sea Tribes went there to find unique cultivating materials anymore. Since the Young family withdrew from the Kiara Sea, this business place was gradually shut down, as the Young family no longer had enough cultivating materials to sell, nor continued to buy precious items that the Sea Tribes got from the seabed. The Yangs always stayed hidden in that beautiful complex, and rarely went out, as if they had all sunk in there. Over the past year, human warriors rarely came here to pay the fees and always found excuses to shirk, saying that they had no crystals at hand. The Young family's attitude was tough at first, and they even handled those human warriors strictly. However, after several incidents, they couldn't get any benefits and also suffered a great loss. Gradually, the Yangs gave up on managing those human warriors' fee payment. Therefore, more and more human warriors started to ignore the Young family's leadership and no longer paid the fees. Over time, those who didn't pay the fees secretly had greed for the cultivating materials that were hidden in that complex watched by the Young family. They started to find excuses to provoke the Yangs, saying that the value of the materials that they had previously sold to the Yangs was very high, but the Young family had given them too little rewards. Some of them began to ask the Yangs for compensation. Inside a vast building, in a chamber, there were a variety of cultivating materials, including rare ores, submarine spiritual herbs, medicines, pellets, and even many precious treasures in the Endless Sea. This part of the cultivating materials was only 1/10 of the amount that had been kept in the Immortal Island. When the Yang family left Immortal Island, they brought all of those materials to Barren City through the transfer formation. In the chamber, a group of the Yang family warriors was checking the inventory of materials with wry faces, frowning and talking unpleasantly. Yang Mu, Yang Zhu, Yang Shui, Yang Kai, Yang Meng, and Li Feng all stayed in there. 4 generations of the Yang family were gathering in this chamber, looking at a large quantity of cultivating resources with worries. Yang Zhu, Yang Zhu's father, had a cultivation base of Nirvana realm, and was the elder of this group. He worriedly looked at the pile of materials on the floor, shook his head, and sighed unceasingly. Father, this part of the materials must be sent out early. If we're late, I'm afraid that they will not belong to us anymore. Yang Mu's face was cold while saying, many people in Barren City are aiming at these materials. Lately, they have become less and less impatient. If it continues like that, they will attack this place directly. Father, although there is no news yet from the trip to the Xia family, we still have to prepare in advance. Yang Zhu let out a sigh. If the Xias can come earlier, perhaps they can scare these bastards a little bit. Unfortunately, we might not be able to wait for them to come. If we could have either Grandpa Mo or Grandpa Li here, we would not be in this passive situation. Mo Duanhun and Li Mu were the 2 of the 3 great Azura kings at the Sky Realm. They were very famous in both the Endless Sea and Barren City. Many people were afraid of these 2 people. Unfortunately, there was no news from them since these 2 Azura kings had entered the 4th demon area. Grandpa let the high-class warrior sneak into the 4th demon area because of the future of our family. We now temporarily suffer the humiliation, but we are waiting until the right time comes to bring the Yang family back into the sea, suppressing everyone and becoming the true leader of the Endless Sea again. Yang Zhuo looked calm while talking. The fact that our great-grandpa is in the 4th demon area is not an accident. Yang Mu wryly smiled and asked, you should never doubt your great-grandpa. Yang Zhuo hummed and said, for many years, your great-grandpa has always been waiting for a chance to let the demon and dark dwellers invade the Endless Sea, which allows the Yang family to go dormant to protect our own strength and forces. When the crucial time comes, we will then come out and regain glory. Right now, the Yang family is temporarily staying low as our great-grandpa had planned earlier. As long as we stay patient, we will have a day when the Yang family's forces dominate everything. But I'm afraid that it's hard to protect these materials. Yang Mu gently shook his head. I fear that we cannot resist any longer. If we can resist for even only a day, we will do it. Yang Zhuo contemplated for a while before speaking with a complicated face. That year, your great-grandpa said that at the most difficult time, there would be a big change. So, we should be patient. No need to take action yet. A big change? Yang Mu, Yang Shui, and others all looked stunned. Yang Zhuo didn't seem to be so sure and said with a strange complexion. That year, your great-grandpa used the immortal blood to foresee Shi Yang's future. He said that Shi Yang would be a great help in the future, supporting the Yang family to enter Barren City at the bottom of the sea. Our great-grandpa said that we should wait for his arrival when we are in the most difficult time. Everyone was dumbstruck. Chapter 437, The Most Difficult Time Comes. Chapter 437, The Most Difficult Time Comes. Shi Yang. Yang Mu arched his eyebrows, showing a puzzled look as he was astonished. Yang Zhu, Yang Shui, and Li Feng, the future pillars of the Yang family, were also startled, looking at Yang Zhuo with strange faces. Yes, it is Shi Yang, Yang Zhuo confirmed with a nod. That year, your great-grandpa had foreseen that the Yang family would encounter a great change in the future, and Shi Yang would show up when the Yang family is in the most difficult time. He will help us cross the storm. Actually, Yang Zhuo was not really sure about it, but to raise up everyone's spirits, he had to tell them the truth. However, he had no affirmation about whether it could turn out like Yang Tian Emperor's reading or not. Would great-grandpa make a misreading? Yang Zhu hesitated for a moment and then shook his head with a wry smile. I admit that Shi Yang was exceptional. Although he hasn't been in the Endless Sea for a long time, his ability is not little. His progress is what makes people admire him. I could never believe that he could break through that fast. After pausing for a moment, he continued. Anyway, Shi Yang has just come to the Endless Sea for not too long a while, and his cultivation base is far lower than those who have been dominating the Endless Sea for many years. I know that he's strong, and his potential is endless. But saying that he can help us overcome the most difficult time is somehow unbelievable, isn't it? Yang Mu and Yang Shui also nodded, as they obviously didn't believe it and felt that Yang Shui's words were more to comfort their spirits. That year, Shi Yang and we entered the chasm battlefield, and before entering the next spot, we were separated. 3 years later, we got out from the battlefield and immediately came to Barren City on the seabed. We don't know what happened to him during this time, and we're not sure if he's still alive or dead. He didn't show up or come to Barren City. Hence, saying that he will appear at the most difficult time is a little bit unrealistic, isn't it? Li Feng knitted her eyebrows tightly, unable to help but remember Shi Yang's performance in the chasm battlefield. She had recognized Shi Yang's potential and knew that if he were still alive, and after such a long time of cultivation, his realm should not below, even reaching the Nirvana realm was possible. She couldn't imagine that in such a short period of time, Shi Yang had crossed the Nirvana realm and entered the Sky realm. With the integration of the ice-cold flame, the Holy Spirit God, and the Earth flame, he had used the mysterious sword to cut off one arm of the demon master Mo Chi Ta. Moreover, he had even wakened up the 10,000-year king corpse's consciousness, making Jiyu Shao, Qing Ming, and the other masters of the Endless Sea lose their faces. As the Yang family had been staying in Barren City for a long time, they basically had no connection with the Endless Sea, and thus, didn't know the situation inland. 1 year ago, Shi Yang had shown his ability at the Yuanluo Sea and carried out the slaughter everywhere. However, only leaders of big forces knew about it. Since Shi Yang had humiliated Jiyu Shao, Yu Qin, and Qing Ming, and also cut off Mo Chi Ta's arm, the demon dwellers and leaders in the Endless Sea all felt disgraced. They obviously would not want this kind of insult to be spread out, and tried to block it totally. Therefore, only a minimal number of high-level leaders had the information about Shi Yang. Ordinary warriors might not have ever heard about it. If Yang Shui knew that Shi Yang had stirred up the Endless Sea like that, giving the demon dwellers and the masters of the Endless Sea sleepless nights, perhaps he would have believed in Yang Tian Emperor's words more. However, currently, they definitely would not entrust their lives to Shi Yang. We will take a good care of these materials. Yang Shui said nothing more about Shi Yang, contemplated for a while before instructing Yang Mu. You will continue to send people out of Barren City to visit the Xia family in the Vault of Heaven Sea area first. We'll explain them our situation here to see whether they still remember the good relation in the past and send their men here to help us stabilize the situation in Barren City. Yang Shui continued, Yang Zhu and Yang Shui, you guys instruct people of our family that they should not act recklessly in Barren City. As for the 4 forces that are provoking us in the city, we don't need to care about them. As long as they don't really attack here, we won't care. However, we need to pay attention to their actions. Remind our people outside. If they carry out a large-scale movement, we must know it in advance. Yang Zhu, Yang Mu, and the others all nodded. Yang Zhu slammed his brows together, contemplated for a moment, and said while looking at Yang Ku, you go and see if there's any good news from the Naga tribe. They used to have a harmonious relationship with us. If the matriarch of the Naga tribe, Li Shuo, can come out, I think that those 4 forces will not be too arrogant. Yang Ku revealed dark eyes, let out a sigh and gently shook his head. You have nothing to say. Yang Shui looked at Yang Ku and asked, if they don't even want to show up, they should at least say something. Doesn't the matriarch Li Shuo care about the relationship we had in the past? Yang Ku was responsible for this matter. He silently sighed hearing Yang Shui's question and then said, those who were sent there couldn't see the matriarch of the Naga tribe. A Naga elder asked our people to leave and told them that their matriarch didn't want to see them. Since the Yang family has declined, the Naga tribe stopped the relationship with us, and that matriarch of the Naga tribe couldn't wait to break all connections with us. So, why should they care about our difficult situation? Yang Zhuo looked very upset. He beamed a wry smile. People are unexpected. The Yang family has done many things for the sea tribes, but when we decline, they immediately forget what we've done for them. It seems that we can't rely on the Naga tribe. We can't count on anyone except for ourselves. Yang Mu wore a glum face and gritted his teeth. Wait until one day when our Yang family revitalizes its glory, I will definitely make those people regret, teaching them what they will get when they offend the Yangs. No need to say these words for now. Instead, we should think about how to deal with the difficulties. Yang Zhuo waved his hand powerlessly. He depressively looked at the colorful materials in the chamber. He thought about how much effort the Yang family had spent to gather these materials, and how soon they would lose them. There seemed to be a big rock pressing on his heart, making him unable to breathe. Tinkling, tinkling. A hanging wind chime suddenly produced a crisping sound. Yang Zhuo and the others were startled, revealing worried faces. They stopped talking and immediately mounted the ladder to get out of the chamber. The big conference hall of the Yang family's building complex was above the chamber. Right now, at the center of the hall, a Yang family's deacon was standing there with a worried face. Yang Zhuo and the others went out in line. Li Yu, you hastily called us to come. What happened? Yang Zhuo looked calm, standing in the hall with a serious complexion. The situation is not good, Li Yu whispered while walking over, bent down and continued. The four forces suddenly stopped the war, not fighting against each other nor competing for territory anymore. The entire barren city has quieted down. I have received the news that the leaders of those four forces seem to begin to talk and cooperate with each other. As soon as his words came out, the faces of all the Yangs in the hall changed simultaneously. In Barren City, when the Yang family still presided the situation, no other forces existed, and the warriors in Barren City all acted decently. After the Yang family declined, some high-class warriors in Barren City started to have wicked intentions, starting to fight to take control of the city. In just a few years, many small forces appeared in Barren City. Some High Realm warriors gathered a group of extraordinary warriors to challenge the dominating status of the Yangs. They secretly confronted the Yangs and refused to pay any fees. When challenging the authority of the Yang family, these forces also fought against each other for the control of the four major areas. After several years of engaging in war, there were now four most influential forces in Barren City, which stayed in the eastern, western, southern, and northern areas respectively. They occupied these areas, taking taxes from the businessmen who wanted to have their protection. These four forces took over the Yang family's dominating position. Except for the central city, these forces continuously fought each other to occupy pieces of territory. And so, Barren City recently became chaotic. Fighting even occurred in some business areas. After such a long war, the four forces had a deep hatred towards each other, and thus, the chance of them shaking hands was nearly impossible. But now, they suddenly stopped fighting, so there could be only one possibility. They now shared a common interest, which was the rich cultivating materials that the Yang family was keeping. The faces of Yang Zhuo and the others all paled. From the news that the four forces had ceased the war, the Yangs realized that something was bad. Only for some great interests can those four forces stop fighting and agree to cooperate with each other. Of course, their target is our cultivating materials. Yang Zhuo took a deep breath, contemplated for a moment, and then ordered immediately. Put forth all things to defend. From now on, no one is allowed to leave. We have to operate all barriers and defensive formations we used to set up. If they dare to come in, even if we cannot resist, we have to make them pay a painful price. Everyone's face suddenly became brutal. The Yangs were never afraid of death. In this difficult moment, they would be even more united. After setting the path, Yang Zhuo immediately began to prepare. On one hand, he called all the warriors outside to come back. On the other hand, he activated all defensive barriers in the buildings, readying to cope with the incoming war. Although these four forces have the protection of Sky Realm warriors, if we really have to fight, we will not be afraid of them, Yang Zhuo grunted, coldly sneered and said. The Yangs can always find a way to defeat the stronger ones. Our immortal martial spirit can help enhance our strength greatly. Moreover, no matter whether it's a secret treasure or top martial techniques, we will find some defensive solution. We also have better conditions than they do. So, defeating them isn't impossible. Yang Zhuo constantly encouraged everyone. None of the Yang family warriors showed any fear. They all had a determined look, ready for the incoming bloody battles. Chapter 438. All forces join hands. Chapter 438. All forces join hands. Barren City suddenly quieted down. The 4 areas of the city were often lively. Human vendors would sell all kinds of cultivation materials, or members of the sea tribes would bring precious submarine treasures here to trade. In the shops along the streets, many silhouettes would walk back and forth while bargaining loudly. But today was different. The 4 major areas of the city were empty. Those who regularly came here to set up their stalls all hid in their homes, not daring to go out. A few groups of human and sea tribe people gathered and discussed with each other, looking at the direction of the central city area from time to time with a cold countenance. Many people had heard the rumors and seemed to know that there would be something big happening today, and that a shaking change would burst out in Barren City. They knew that after this war, the powerful force dominating Barren City for many years would collapse soon and could never stay safe and sound in this city. Everyone was waiting for something in silence. At noon, human warriors began to gather in the 4 major areas of the city. 4 Sky Realm warriors were taking the lead, quietly approaching the central area. Those 4 Sky Realm warriors quickly arranged their teams and kept walking ahead. More and more warriors joined them from other places of the city. Gradually, these 4 Sky Realm warriors had already gathered almost 800 warriors with different realms and attires. Some had red ribbons tied on their cuffs, some wore small, black caps, and the others wore blue robes, while some had their gloves on. Just with a glance, it was easy to see a clear distinction between those 4 big forces. After an hour of gathering, the 4 forces already had nearly 800 members. All of them slowly moved to the intersection in the central area of the city. All of a sudden, everyone halted. Immediately, the 4 Sky Realm warriors walked out of their teams respectively and went to the center of the crossroad. They stopped at an open-air wine shop and sat on a table, backing 4 different directions. Seeing the 4 of them arrive, the face of the owner of the wine shop changed instantly. He didn't dare to say anything, just silently served good wine to the 4 of them and then bent down while moving back away from them, not daring to linger any longer. Ming Hai, the Yang family didn't treat you bad. That year, under the pursuit of the Jiyu family, you had to run all the way to Kiara Sea. Thanks to Jiao Hanyi's appearance, those pursuers finally retreated. After Jiao Hanyi suggested you join the Yang family, although you refused, he didn't say anything else and even told you that you could come to Barren City to earn a living. Still, you've made up your mind on this. The beautiful woman with a graceful body and a gentle voice, Julan Xin, beamed a smile and glanced at Ming Hai, who was sitting opposite her. Ming Hai had a cultivation base of 2nd Sky of the Sky Realm, which was the highest realm among the 4 of them. He had received a favor from the Azura King Jiao Hanyi and relied on the relationship with him to cause enmity in Barren City. He was a ruthless and cruel man, acting without caring about life or death. That year, to take revenge for his family, he dared to kill a descendant of the Jiyu family. After that, the Jiyu family put all of their forces to capture him, chasing him all the way to Kiara Sea. When he was under their siege, Jiao Hanyi passed through by chance, and after understanding the situation, decided to help him get rid of the Jiyu family people and protect his life. The reason for Jiao Hanyi to do so was that he admired Ming Hai's courage to not to be afraid of the Jiyu family. After Ming Hai entered Barren City, he often boasted about this matter, fraternizing with Jiao Hanyi, making many people in Barren City mistake him for having some relation with the Yang family. Hence, people there were scared of him. Julan Xin mentioned this matter to ridicule him, making him embarrassed. In the past few years, Julan Xin and Ming Hai had distorted and monopolized the north area of the city, getting involved in many battles. In the beginning, Julan Xin was always at a disadvantage, being suppressed by Ming Hai. After that, Zhu Lanxin established a relationship with the Water Scorpion clan, and since then, she was no longer afraid of Ming Hai, tightly controlling the north area in her hands. When everyone united to deal with the Yangs this time, Zhu Lanxin still remembered the hatred in the past and took this opportunity to say some mean words. Yes, Zhao Ji did treat me well, Ming Hai grinned. If Zhao Ji is still alive, as long as the informant comes to send some words, I definitely will not have wicked intentions and even fight against you to protect the Yang family's interests. Ming Hai shook his head and said with regret, unfortunately, Zhao Ji's gone. I've received the news that Zhao Ji's spirit perished, and his body was occupied by Demon King Kai Yang. Such a hero could still end up with his current bad situation. Zhao has spent the essence of his whole life for the Yang family. Although he got the title of Azura King, what else did he get? He was still just a watchdog of the Yang family. At the critical time, wasn't he still sacrificed? No matter what people say, Zhao Han Yi was still one of the Yangs. If he knew how you treat the Yang family now, he would probably have regretted saving you in the dwelling place of the dead, sneered Zhu Lanxin coldly. Well, Ming Hai's visage looked ruthless as his eyes gazed at her coldly. I do this because of Zhao Ji. The Yang family's done now, so I just take the things that Zhao Ji had worked hard to earn. Isn't it better than letting others abuse them? With those materials, I can enhance my strength, and one day, I will probably enter the spirit realm. By that time, I will remember Zhao Ji's favor, and I will find a way to take revenge for him. Fu Hao and Yang Feng suddenly laughed. These two were the leaders of the eastern and the southern areas respectively. They were both at the first sky of Sky Realm. Hearing Ming Hai's clumsy reason, they couldn't help but burst into laughter. What are you laughing at? Ming Hai showed a gloomy face and asked, is it funny? Very funny, Fu Hao nodded steadily and bluntly said, Bozun exterminated Zhao Han Yi's soul, and Kai Yang occupied his body. Ming Hai, you're saying that you want to find the Demon Kings to take revenge. You tell me if it's funny or not. Ming Hai revealed a pernicious look but didn't continue to explain. I have a suggestion. Zhu Lanxin hesitated for a moment and then suddenly said. The one who kills Yang Zhuo can have the bigger part. How does it sound? As soon as her words came out, the other three people were all startled. Do you think you can kill Yang Zhuo? Yu Hao frowned and coldly said. Although Yang Zhuo is only at the third sky of Nirvana realm, everyone knows that his immortal martial spirit is mighty. If the Yangs desperately involve in the battles, they can have the ability to upgrade their realm. Yang Zhuo is one of the Yang family's descendants with numerous secret treasures and top martial techniques. Hence, although he's only at the third sky of Nirvana realm, it's not easy for you to deal with him alone. Do you really think that with the support of the Water Scorpion clan, your strength could be improved that much? I certainly don't think so, Zhu Lanxin spouted. I'm just worried that you guys will not put all of your strength to deal with Yang Zhuo. Although it will not be easy to defeat him, we still can suppress him. If the two of us unite and wholly put out all we have, he will not be able to resist. And of course, under the full attack of the three of us, he will obviously die. I'm just talking for the sake of everyone as I'm afraid that you will not try all best and waste a lot of time. That's why I have this proposal. What do you say? After listening to her, Ming Hai, Fu Hao, and Yang Feng kept silent for a while and then nodded, agreeing with her suggestion. Although the time is plenty, we should act soon to get those materials. Yang Feng was the most urgent one. He was the first one to stand up. The detailed plans unchanged. I'm responsible for the attack from the east. You guys have your own responsibilities to take care of. We will be all present in that conference hall at the time the chamber is opened. Your insiders are still good. Any problems? Yang Feng glared at Ming Hai. Absolutely fine. No problem. Ming Hai revealed a vicious smile. Before the Yang family declined, its members were very loyal. But now, it's easy to find some insiders. Everyone aims for a better living after all. Hence, when they have a way out, they know what to choose. That's good. Yang Feng nodded and was the first one to leave, walking towards the Yang family's building in the east. As soon as he moved, Hundreds of warriors immediately stood up and followed him. The other three, Ming Hai, Fu Hao, and Zhu Lanxin, sat still, drinking a few mouthfuls of wine. After that, they also stood up and left, leading their people. In the barrel house, the shopkeeper slowly came out from the back with a wry smile and then cleaned up the glasses on the table, shaking his head and letting out a sigh. "Boss, why are you shaking your head? You don't seem to like them." A waiter came over and asked. "Those people come here to drink and eat but never pay." The owner sighed. "They are not as good as the Yangs. Even when the Yang family was the most powerful, the Yangs always paid when they came here to eat and drink. None of the Yangs who came here to eat and drink didn't pay. As for those people, not only don't they pay, but their subordinates also come here to enjoy without paying. If it continues like this, we will not be able to stay longer in Barren City." The waiter looked glumly. "They are too strong. The Yang family's much stronger than them but never breaks the rules." The shopkeeper slightly raised his voice but then immediately realized that it was not good, and quickly lowered his voice again. "After those 4 people have taken over the control of the 4 major areas, they charge taxes much more than the Yang family did, always exploiting the merchants. They use flattery to treat the sea tribes but suppress the people in the city. They eventually call the shots in Barren City. Many people find it hard to live here. Yes. I've recently heard that a lot of people are considering leaving Barren City. If one were without enemies in the outside world, no one would be willing to come to the bottom of the sea to reside. When the Yang family was still in their glory, the city never had wars. The Yang family protected us, not letting the sea tribes bully us. But now, when those 4 are taking control of the city, the sea tribes members become more arrogant. They don't respect us at all." The young waiter frowned, looking at the beautiful complex in the central area of the city, and said, "I hope that the Yang family can continue to stand firmly to maintain the order of the city and that those 4 can't defeat them." "It's easier said than done." The shopkeeper sighed and helplessly shook his head, thinking whether or not he should leave Barren City soon. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.